Nobody freak out. Happy Halloween, everybody. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you very, very much. We know you've got many, many choices to make every single day, and we are always so very grateful that you choose to spend some time with us. So thank you very, very much. There's a gifting goal today. Please consider joining our Discord. Please consider joining our team if you've not yet done that. You know the drill. Tapping, clapping, sharing, right? And by completing all the various tasks, it's my homage to Brett Cross. I'm glad you caught that. You know the various tasks. The more you do, the more you know. We are crowdfunded here. You want to support the channel? Best way to do that is through the various appetizers app that exists out there in the cyberlands at Factsstillmatter. Whole bunch of brand new merch in the merch store as well, by the way. Go check it out. You can find that at Facts HQ. The link is in the link tree that's in my bio, or just go to factsstillmatter.site. Thank you. Yes, I was wearing a wig the entire time. To be honest, this is kind of how I looked in high school, minus the gray beard. Led Zeppelin shirt, Scully, or a baseball cap backwards. Even had the chain wallet. Yeah, it was ridiculous. And I weighed like 129 pounds, 130 pounds. I looked like a fucking mop with all the long hair, although my hair wasn't black. Anywho, nice to see you all. Hope you're having a good Halloween. Hope you're safe tonight. I would encourage you, if you are handing out candy this evening, maybe there's an opportunity to slide some non-perishable food items into the bags of Halloween campers. Maybe ramen, maybe some soup, maybe some pudding, things like that. That just, I know people can be like, I got pudding, I got ramen from my neighbor, but I'm sure parents would appreciate that. So, as we always think about others in our little community. So thank you all for being here. And again, happy Halloween. We've got a lot to discuss because the president was rage tweeting overnight. But I've thought first just a little history of this particular holiday. All Hallows Eve, more commonly known as Halloween, observed today, traces back to ancient Celtic festivals of Samhain, marking the end of the harvest season and the beginning of winter. The Celts believed that on this night, the boundary between the living and the dead blurred, allowing spirits to roam the earth. When Christianity spread across the Celtic lands, the church designated November 1st as All Saints' Day to honor saints and martyrs, and the evening before became known as All Hallows Eve, eventually shortened to Halloween. Jack-o'-lanterns stem from an Irish legend about Stingy Jack, a trickster who roamed the earth with a carved turnip lantern. Trick-or-treating evolved from medieval souling, when the poor would visit homes offering prayers for the dead in exchange for food. Costumes originally meant to disguise oneself from wandering spirits. Halloween blends themes of death, harvest, and renewal, reflecting both pagan and Christian traditions. It's now celebrated with costumes, candy, haunted houses, and parties, but its deeper roots lie in the cycle of life, death, and remembrance. It's interesting. The Samhain marks the end. Traditionally marked the end of summer and the beginning of the dark, cold winter, a time often associated with death. 609 AD, Pope Boniface IV established All Martyrs' Day, later expanded to include All Saints' Day. In the 9th century, Pope Gregory III moved the feast to November 1st, creating All Saints' Day and or All Hallows' Day. And the night before, October 31st, known as All Hallows' Eve, November 2nd was added as All Souls' Day, honoring the all-departed faithful, further blending the old Samhain themes of death and remembrance with Christian practices. Souling became the poor and the children would go door to door offering prayers for the dead in exchange for soul cakes, small sweet breads. And then in Scotland and Ireland, people dressed in costumes and performed songs for tricks or for food coins, the forerunner of modern day trick-or-treating. So there you go. Little history. Appreciate you guys being here. Thank you very, very much. So as we enter November, the Republican Party has got a lot of explaining to do to the American, to our country and to the media, to people in their circle, because their boss, Daddy, by the way, we will get into, it is technically Free Speech Friday, and we'll get into that in just a little bit, but I just think for the purposes of this, because I can't think of a better image than what we see here. But the president comes back from his trip, and then he, oh my goodness, they are going to have, Mikey, my bitch boy, Mikey's going to have some explaining to do, because the president went off early this morning. I just got back from Asia where I met the leader. This is on True Social, where I met the leaders of many countries, including China, Japan, South Korea, Malaysia, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, Singapore, Thailand, Cambodia, Vietnam, and others. It was a great honor to meet them, but more particularly to see that America is respected. Oh, somebody just said they want that. Okay, I'll do my best. Sorry. No, I don't want that.
I don't want that. That's funny.
These are MAGA's words of wisdom.
It does kind of track in a way. Okay. Yeah, it was a great honor to meet them, but more particularly to see that America is respected again. Respected like never before. Great trade deals were made. Long-term relationships now exist, and money is pouring into our country because of tariffs and, frankly, the landslide results of the 2024 presidential election. Okay, my guy. The one question that kept coming up, however, was how did the Democrats shut down the United States of America? And why did the powerful Republicans allow them to do it? The fact is, in flying back, I thought a great deal about that question. Why? Majority Leader John Thune and Speaker of the House Mike Johnson are doing a great job, but the Democrats are crazed lunatics that have lost all sense of wisdom and reality. It is a sick form of the now legendary Trump derangement syndrome that only comes from losing too much. They want trillions of dollars to be taken from our healthcare system and given to others who are not deserving. People who have come into our country illegally, many from prisons and mental institutions. This will hurt American citizens, and Republicans will not let it happen. It is now time for the Republicans to play their Trump card. See what I did there? And go for what is called the nuclear option. Hold on a second. There, and goodbye, my love. Be safe, be kind, be gentle. Bye. The Trump card. See what I did there? Cool. And go for what is called the nuclear option. What? Wait, what? Oh. Get rid of the filibuster and get rid of it now. Just a short while ago, the Democrats, while in power, fought for 3 years to do this, but were unable to pull it off because of Senators Joe Manchin of West Virginia and Kyrsten Sinema of Arizona. Never had the Democrats fought so hard to do something because they knew the tremendous strength that terminating the filibuster would give them. They want to substantially expand PAC, the United States Supreme Court, make Washington, D.C. and Puerto Rico states, thereby automatically picking up 4 Senate seats, many House seats and at least 8 electoral votes, and many of other highly destructive things. Well, now we are in power. And if we did what we should be doing, it would immediately end this ridiculous country-destroying shutdown. If the Democrats ever came back into power, which would be made easier for them if the Republicans are not using the great strength and policies made available to us by ending the filibuster, the Democrats will exercise their rights and will be done in the first day they take office, regardless of whether or not we do it. In addition to all the other things we would get, such as the best judges, the best U.S. attorneys, the best of everything, this was a concept from years ago of then President Barack Hussein Obama and former Majority Leader Harry Reid in order to take advantage of the Republicans. Now I want to do it in order to take advantage of the Democrats because of the fact, this is all caps, that the Democrats have gone stone cold crazy. The choice is clear. Initiate the nuclear option, get rid of the filibuster, and make America great again.
So, navigating through all of that, the MAGA Republican Donald Trump government shutdown could have been ended at any point because of the government, because of Republicans having the power of the nuclear option. Now, I feel like I want to take a victory lap. I don't know if this message is going to work, but here we are, right? Here we are. Here we are a day. I mean, literally everything he said in there. Yeah, D.C. and Puerto Rico states. Okay. 8 more electoral college votes. Okay. Packing the courts. Okay. Sounds good to me. Right? Right? So I just think it's really, really interesting that he played that card. Now, there's a strategy behind it, of course, and I'm still trying to figure out what it is. But my belief is they will attempt to try to say, this is my prediction. We'll see how close it is. I'm sorry if I'm freaking everybody out, but yeah, it's Halloween. You know, kind of get in the spirit a little bit. I'm curious as to how my mods have reacted. They don't care. Okay. Hold on a second. I think part of the spin is going to be, you know, we tried to negotiate in good faith. No, they did not. They didn't make any changes. They didn't make one change to their policy approach. Now, did they? In fact, Mike Johnson all along has said, doesn't matter. So here we are, a day before SNAP benefits run out based on appropriations. We also know that they've been lying about whether or not emergency funds can be used. So we're gonna beat up on Bitch Boy today a little bit, like we always do, because he seems to be the one that's front and center on most of the bullshit. Let's start with this statement from just yesterday. Bitch Boy.
Take a few questions. Yes, sir, Secretary.
Thanks, Mr. Speaker. During the last shutdown in 2019, it was the first Trump administration, and they made sure that in the second month of the shutdown, SNAP benefits would go out. They had them sent early. Why do you think they shouldn't do that this time?
Well, the president, this administration has done exactly what he did in the first term, and that is bend over backwards to make sure that we mitigate the harm. We explained here yesterday that any administration...
I'm sorry, did you just say he's going to bend over backwards to mitigate the harm? Well, that's really interesting, Mike. Then why would he say this?
Despite all of the damage that it's caused, the shutdown has been, pretty damaging. I mean, it's not yet because it's early, but it gets a little bit worse as it goes along. And we'll be making cuts that will be permanent. And we're only going to cut Democrat programs, I hate to tell you. I guess. Okay, so I just want to be clear that whatever Democrat programs are in your mind, I don't know, like expanding healthcare access, making sure the subsidies don't go away, making sure that we're funding SNAP, things like that. But you claim, Mike, that the president's bending over backwards to do that. I don't think so, but again, continue.
Backwards to make sure that we mitigate the harm. We explained here yesterday that any administration in a shutdown scenario has figuratively a control panel of pain dials. In the Obama administration...
I'm sorry, what? Mikey, I know you and I have talked about your kinks, but did you really want to go public with your pain dials, my guy? I mean, I know you like it to go to 11. We'll leave that right there.
2013, when they shut it down, they turned all the dials to 10. They wanted it to hurt. And so remember, famously, they put the yellow crime tape around the World War II memorial and prevented aging veterans from going and visiting these landmarks.
See, this is the ultimate false equivalency, because parks were closed, similarly to Mr. Trump closing parks because the government being shut down. This is the false equivalency, right? This is trying to say that, well, because there was police tape around monuments, that's worse than kids not eating. That's the false equivalency. And that will turn into sound bites. And then you'll hear our friends on the right talk about it. Well, Obama put up police tape. My grandfather was fought World War II and he wanted to go and visit his friends and it couldn't happen. Well, what about food? Well, food is food. Mm-hmm.
They made it hurt. President Trump has done exactly the opposite. I mean, he's done everything he can. He's ordered all of his cabinet secretaries to mitigate the harm. So, for example, as you know, with WIC funding, they found a way to fund that with tariff revenue. We found a way to pay the troops once already in October, hopefully at the end of this month, by moving money around. But it's very difficult to do. Those are not inexhaustible funds. When it comes to SNAP, some of the Democrats have argued that you can use this contingency fund. But the truth is there's no legal mechanism.
Yes, there is.
Unlike with WIC funding.
Yeah, actually, let's talk about that, Mike, because did you just say that there's no legal mechanism to do that? Well, I actually, I throw the flag on that, Mike, because of Section 5H of the Food and Nutrition Act of 2008. gives the president that exact authority, the same authority that he exercised during the last Donald Trump MAGA Republican government shutdown. So will you please stop lying to people? I know that's all you have left now that daddy has spoken. You know, when you asked me to spank you last night, Mike, you were complaining that you're not getting respected. So you just decided degradation was the way to go. So I asked you politely in between spankings to stop lying to people. So I just want to be very, very clear. This part is important.
Now, some of the Democrats have argued that you can use this contingency fund, but the truth is there's no legal mechanism.
Yeah, actually, Mike, there is a legal mechanism. There is. Again, it's called the Section 5H of the Food and Nutrition Act of 2008. The provision allows the USDA through Food and Nutrition Services, or FNS, to approve emergency SNAP benefits. So yes, there is an actual legal mechanism that lives within the executive branch at the cabinet level. It's the same thing the president did previously in 2018, 2019 due to the government shutdown. So stop lying. And my question is, where is the fucking mainstream media calling that bullshit out? Why have they not been talking about this in the beginning? We have. We've been talking about it. Tracy, I just sent you an invite. Can you come up? Because you're probably not aware of the breaking news this morning now, are you, Tracy? Tracy. Let's pin this comment. Tracy, why did the president on True Social just this morning tell Republicans to invoke the nuclear option with 51 votes, Tracy? Why? Why did that happen? Why is it that you just decided not to believe me for the last month when I've been telling you this existed, and now the president himself is telling Republicans to use the nuclear option? Why is that, Tracy? Did you not know that? And, I feel like I want to run a victory lap today. Like, there's a couple of creators who I just really want to find time in their spaces and just bring up that truth and watch them fucking squirm and try to figure out a way to defend it. And I think what's really obvious to me is that the president feels frustrated because this is all about a polling exercise. They are getting hammered in the polls, and it's just going to get worse now because now it's public that there's been this option all along, right? There's been options all along, and he's now gone on Truth Social, and he's probably not communicated with House leadership, with Senate leadership, and he just went public. And the Senate leadership is going to be like, fuck, dude, damn it. We've been trying to hang this on the Democrats, this 60 vote threshold because of the filibuster. And now you're telling people that we've had this mechanism all along. Yeah, that's right. So back to bitch boy.
To do it, unlike with WIC funding that was attached to a 1930s era statute that was related to tariff funds because it was related to nutrition and food coming over the border. There's no such legal avenue to give SNAP funding now. It doesn't exist. The problem is the contingency and the authority to do that was voted down in the CR.
No, it was not. That's another fucking lie. The contingency has nothing to do with the CR. That's why it's there. It's money that's already been appropriated to this emergency fund that gives the president, because it's an executive branch function, the authority to release it. You need to stop lying, bitch boy. I'm going to withhold the spankings because you love them so much, bitch boy. So again, stop fucking lying.
When the Democrats themselves did it. So the president has lamented this. He has informed USDA and everybody. Do as best you can, but the money doesn't exist to do it.
Yes, it does. It's roughly $3 to $5 billion. Yes, it absolutely does. It's likely enough to cover 1 month or so. States around the country are using some of their own resources. My state stepped up yesterday and said, yeah, it's going to cost us around $6 million. Likely not going to get the money back, but they're going to do it anyway, right? So it's just, I don't know how you run from this one because this is just a bold-faced fucking lie. And where's mainstream media? Where are they? Some of them are showing up, but not in general.
The simplest way to end the pain and the simplest way to make this stop is for the Democrats to do the obvious and right thing and vote for the nonpartisan funding measure so that we can turn everything back on. Then we will get back here, and then we will debate all these other extraneous issues. But right
Sure.
now, the first job of the government is to keep it in operation and take care of the people who depend upon all these services that we've articulated today. It's nonsense, and it has to end, and you should be asking them the tough questions, why they're willing to inflict this pain on the people for their partisan.
Well, Mike, unfortunately, you're wrong about that. And like I said yesterday, for people, for MAGA in the chat, as they say, I want you to ask yourself this question, right? If you're a business owner, or you are or you work in sales, or whatever that might be, have you ever had a client sign a contract and then you negotiate the terms? Right? I mean, I know it requires a tiny little bit of critical thought, just a tiny bit. But would you sign a contract and then negotiate terms? Do you think, LeBron James or Tom Brady or Shohei Ohtani is going to put their name to a blank piece of paper and then have the terms just magically appear afterwards? MAGA Republicans have had 15 years. MAGA Republicans, Tea Party Republicans have had 15 years since the ACA rolled out to offer a counter. And not once have you done it. Not once have you done it. And now you expect the American people to believe that in the next 6 weeks, you're going to figure that shit out? This particular CR, and again, it's not clean. I'm so sick and tired of them using the words clean CR. It's not. They added funding in it for security. I have the list. Let's see here. They added funding for security measures for members of Congress, Supreme Court justices, executive branch officials. They authorized additional spending for DC to spend at, they prorated 2025 and they added funding from 2026. So it's not clean. Clean would be there be no changes. So it is not clean. So it's another fucking lie. It's another lie that they've told. Another lie. Larry, why are you sitting in the 13-time Democrats voted to not fund staff? Larry, why don't you request? Because we can talk about this, because I think you've been woefully misinformed, and we're here to teach. We're here to please, and we're here to teach. So if you'd like to learn something, Larry, just request, and we can talk about it. So again, not a clean CR. What Democrats are fighting for is everyone's, the ACA. What, Tracy? Okay. What Democrats are fighting for is health insurance for everybody. For everybody. Because again, what I think our friends on the right don't understand is if those subsidies disappear, right? First of all, baseline, insurance premiums across the board are expected to rise around 30%. So that's everybody, whether it's private insurance, whether it's subsidies, whether it's your premiums prior to your subsidies, whether it's employer-funded insurance, across the board, they're supposed to rise 30%. What our friends on the right don't understand is if people are losing their health insurance, these industries are still going to be driving profit. So the more and more people who, for example, decide I'm a healthy individual, I'm going to have to go it alone, I'm not going to be able to have health insurance. What that does is it dilutes the pool, fewer people in it. So to hit those profit margins, what do you think is going to happen? Prices are going to go up across the board, and that's going to affect your private insurance. That's going to affect your employer-sponsored insurance. Everything. Why don't people understand that? Why am I asking that stupid question? That is the reality here, okay? Everybody understand? I mean, I know you guys know that because you're the smartest chat on TikTok, but every once in a while we get some stragglers, okay? We get some stragglers. Now, we could be objective and we could say these are conversations that should have been happening all along, but there's been about 70 votes for extensions and expansions to healthcare programs that have been sponsored by the Democrats, and they've never passed because of Republican opposition. And the Republicans have never introduced a comprehensive healthcare solution. Not once. Not once. And here we are 15 years later, and we're supposed to believe Mike Johnson, who lies every fucking day? We're supposed to believe him? Really? Really? Well, we know. So again, it is Free Speech Friday. Thank you to Legend for putting this together for us. Again, it's Free Speech Friday. Thank you for being here. To be objective, right, is to say if we want to have a bipartisan solution, I get it. I understand. The most effective legislation, by and large, throughout our history. Yeah, is Tracy coming up? No, Tracy won't come up. She won't come up. She won't request. We know that, sadly. The most effective form of legislation would be a bipartisan solution, but our country's too divided. And I want to remind people that people talk about how, the Democrats are holding up shit. Well, we know that that's not true. 75 million Americans voted for Kamala Harris, which means that 75 million Americans, which is just 1.3% fewer that voted for Donald Trump, believe that what Democrats are doing is the right thing. Defending people's health care. The reason that Trump is doing this, the reason that he's almost demanding Senate Republicans to invoke the nuclear option is because he's getting beaten up in the polls. He doesn't give a fuck about feeding people. He doesn't give a fuck. Tracy, either come up and talk to me or leave. You have that option. I'm not gonna have a conversation with you. You're spamming the chat. It's just stupid. Either come up and have a conversation or just leave. It's really simple because you're just spewing nonsense. Okay, you're spewing nonsense. You don't understand what vote count is. How many votes did he get? How many votes did she get? That's the difference. That's the delta. Okay, so stop. God. Anyway, why would anybody? Thank you. Why would that's wild. Holy, that reminded me of college. Anyway, Why would anyone negotiate with Republicans at this point? Why would anybody? I want a healthcare plan that's effective. If Republicans introduce something that offered me the same coverage that I can get through the ACA and it was cheaper, then sign me the fuck up. It's really that simple. But now they're caught. Now we know, and I'll go back to the program. This is the emergency funding declaration. The president can declare a variety of things: a major disaster, hurricanes, flood, wildfire. The USDA can authorize DSNAP, which gives temporary food benefits to households affected, even those wouldn't normally qualify for regular SNAP. Public health or economic emergencies. During the C-19 pandemic, for example, the Families First Coronavirus Response Act, or FFCRA, allowed the president and USDA to expand SNAP benefits nationwide under emergency declarations. However, those authorities expired when the national emergency ended in 2023. So we hear every single day that we have an economic emergency here because of tariffs. We hear every single day that there's a criminal justice emergency by rolling out tanks and fucking the military and the National Guard to cities. But we don't have an emergency with people are being denied food. The president cannot unilaterally reappropriate new SNAP funds. We know that, but there is this contingency. It's built for this reason. There was no natural disaster in 2018, 2019. President authorized the funds then. This is a solely owned executive branch authority. And what we've been listening to for the past, 9 months is that people in our country who voted for Trump believe that the president should have more authority. That's the whole principle behind the unitary executive. I've got the power to do all these things. I've got the power to end birthright citizenship. I've got the power to blow up drug boats in the Caribbean. I've got the power to send in the National Guard all I want, but you don't have the power to use emergency funds that are dedicated for this purpose, to use those funds to feed people? Come on. Let's be real. Come on. I mean, I know people are stupid, and we're going to talk about our education system in a little bit, but that's just ridiculous. How can power the purse? It's not the power of the purse, Charlie. You don't understand how it works. Charlie, again, you're probably a bot. Anyway, the president can direct the USA to use existing appropriations or contingency reserves, which is exactly what we're talking about, to boost aid in an emergency. Again, there's a law that allows him to do it. It's authority vested in the executive branch because the USDA is an executive branch function. Agencies are executive branch. Within the executive branch, who's the head of the executive branch? That would be the twice impeached, 4-time indicted, sexually abusing, fraudster, convicted felon, name on a list predator. who's burying shit under the fucking ballroom. Okay? So do people understand? So we're going to spend some more time talking about this today because we'll be watching the news to see if Republicans are going to do anything. Now they now have been told by Daddy that use the nuclear option. I remember there's a creator, I believe he is live at the same time I am. He calls himself this fucking bona fide expert. And I'm humble, but I just dog walked him so unmercilessly, trying to come up with excuses, literally lying to himself, literally reading things that he said would support his argument about the nuclear option. And he walked right into the point and still wouldn't admit it. We have been telling people all along, MAGA Republicans have the ability. Now, I would agree that if this does happen and they use it, that changes the entire makeup of the Senate. Filibuster is just a rule. It's not a law. It's not constitutional. It's got nothing to do with anything other than it being a rule. Period. They can use it. Democrats then, when they regain power, and they will have the same tool. Expand the courts. Statehood for Puerto Rico. Statehood for D.C. Yep. Constitutional amendment to overturn Citizens United. Yep. Yeah. All this shit. Yeah. Let's fucking go. Yeah. What's the matter, Chicky? This is my natural hair color. The beard is fake. So we'll watch this. Obviously, we'll kind of keep an eye. Hang on a second. Yeah. So Jess, you said when I looked like that in high school, and I said high school back in the 1930s. No. Nope. 1980s. By the way, my high school, my 40th high school reunion was this past weekend. I did not go, but it was this past weekend. 40 years. Yeah, that's right. Which means I graduated high school when I was 9. Okay. So again, we will keep our eyes peeled over the course of the day today to see if there's any movement at all, because now they're busted, right? Now they've been called out. Okay. I am your age, Angie. I graduated high school in 1985, so that would make me 58. Anyway, we know that they've always had this power, and I will just be curious. Okay, I'm just curious as to how this is gonna work over the course of the day today. They're gonna try to spin it. I don't know. You weren't even born yet. Yeah, we know, Jess. We know. Don't try to be cool. Okay, so there's a few other things that I really want to talk about today. A lot of it's going to be focused on Mike Johnson, bitch boy. It is Free Speech Friday, so we want to hear from you today. Let me play a little bit of sound. I'm gonna play some nuggets from Zohran Mamdani and Andrew Cuomo's debate, because I think it's just great that there's this kind of energy, and Andrew Cuomo is just a pathetic individual, right? He's just pathetic, and Mamdani is calling him out, and it's because status quo Democrats, conservatives like Andrew Cuomo, realize that they're the old guard, and people argue is the greatest city in the world, New York City, right, are like, no, we don't want to fucking deal with this bullshit anymore. Absolutely fucking not. Let me guest request. I think it's Mew. Yeah, I'll bring it. Hi, Mew. Hello, Mew. Are you there? Mew? Going once?
Are you there?
I am. I can hear you now.
Steve?
Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Okay, sorry. Podcast is playing in the background.
It's okay.
I was thinking, you've been talking about progressives a lot, and something that has stuck in my head ever since I heard on TYT, Democrats and Republicans hate something more than each other. They hate progressives. Both.
Exactly.
And that has always stuck in my head, and I just wanted to share that with you guys.
I would classify it this way, Mew. I would say conservatives hate progressives, because there are conservative Democrats too, don't forget. So that's kind of why I break it down, and I try to erase the party affiliation and say you are either conservative and you want to keep things the way they are, and that includes conservative Democrats, or you want progressives to progress society forward. That's kind of how I look at it.
Exactly. That's all I wanted to say. Thank you, Steve.
Thank you, friend. I appreciate you. See you later. All right, bye.
Whee!
Exactly. Exactly. So, yeah, and I would ask you guys to kind of consider that as well. It's just reframing of things, but you're faced with a prospect, right? Do you want to, I mean, there's a reason that the windshield is bigger than the rearview mirror, right? You want to be looking forward. You want to have a road ahead of you, not worry about what's behind you necessarily, right? We all bring our shit with us, but that's different. But again, windshield's bigger than the rearview mirror. I want society to progress. So conservatives, obviously MAGA Republicans are deathly afraid of progressives, but Democrats, status quo Democrats, are afraid of progressives too. Question is why? 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 Because, again, they're afraid of progress. They don't want marginalized communities to have this access to the same things that they do. They always want the system to work to their advantage. Everybody else be damned. I mean, they tell us every single day, every day. It's nothing new, right? Okay. Let me play a little bit of, this is Joe Neguse, and I really like Joe Neguse, and he's the kind of voice that I want. He's the kind of person, he represents Colorado, brilliant guy, was one of the lead prosecutors on the second Trump impeachment. But this is how you respond to questions, and this is just great. Obviously, this is from yesterday, so this is before. A lot of the sound you're going to hear is before the president came out with a statement last night about telling Republicans to use the nuclear option. So MAGA, if you're just joining us, hi, thanks for the engagement. I don't know if you're aware of this, but your boy came out last night and said, I want Republicans to use the nuclear option, which then would give them a 51-seat majority to be able to pass their big, beautiful piece of shit bill. I don't know if you know that, but I'm just letting you know. So there you go. So this is Joe Neguse, and this is how you address these crazy questions.
If we come to November 1st and these contingency funds haven't been released, if nothing has been accomplished in restoring SNAP benefits, will you call on your Democratic colleagues to reopen the government and deal with these shutdown crises immediately, deal with healthcare conversations once the government is reopened?
So let me ask you a question. The basis for your question is, and maybe the better way to state it would be, if the Trump administration continues to violate the law, if the Trump administration unlawfully refuses to release funds so that families in Colorado, if the Trump administration refuses to follow the law as they have for the better course of the last 9 months, violating statute after statute, if in that scenario these actions unfold, then how will Democrats respond? That, my view, would be a more fair characterization of the question that you've posed, because it does feel a little bit like we're in the twilight zone here, with an administration that is lawless, violates the law with impunity, is now doing so with respect to the release of funds for families that may go hungry. We're here in Washington, you're here in Washington, House Republicans are gone, 6 weeks and counting, gone, literally gone. Won't show up in Washington, won't do town halls back in their respective districts. And somehow the question is posed to House Democrats as to how we will respond. The Trump administration needs to follow the law. And insofar, you've heard all my colleagues repeatedly suggest we would like to negotiate an agreement in good faith with our Republican colleagues. That is why we're here in our nation's capital. The question should be posed to Republicans. When will they get serious about working with us in good faith so that we can reach an agreement? And the passion you hear is frustration with the fact that Republicans could just simply abandon their post for 6 weeks, that the Trump administration can just violate the law without consequence. It should offend everyone. It certainly offends me.
I think this is a really, really important historical moment. I really do. It's because that we've all said, how do we stand up to this authoritarianism, right? How do we do it? What's going to happen? Is Congress going to show up? Is Congress going to attempt to do the right thing to try to defend, what is a country of 330 million people? Your political affiliation aside, it's still about the fact that we share resources here. There's a social contract between all of us. So here we are. Democrats could have easily done what they've done in the past and just given in. Instead, We've got to the point now where tomorrow is a big day because SNAP benefits are due to expire. The president himself last night tells Senate Republicans to do it, to use the nuclear option. And that has been, let me back up a second, but that has been the only mechanism. Mike Johnson has been saying the government is shut down because of Democrats. No, the government is shut down because of Republicans, period. They are the ones in charge. Republicans in the House are just not even there. They are persona non grata. They've gone home. They're not willing to negotiate. That's on them. Democrats in the House are there. Let's have conversations about healthcare. Let's have conversations about healthcare. Mike Johnson's like, no. You agree to open the government, and then we'll talk about healthcare. Yeah, no. Nope. Senate Democrats have held firm, and I'm surprised. I must say I'm surprised. I thought that they would eventually cave to the pressure, right? There was one of the largest unions in the country, which is the federal government employees union, said open the government. And that, because Democrats certainly help protect unions better than the Republican Party does, and it's not even open for debate. That's just a no fucking brainer. They are the ones that put pressure, and they could have easily said, "Okay, we got to do this," but they haven't. And now the Republicans are stuck. So we have to get through the next couple of days. I know it's going to be tough. If you, as a reminder, if you want to donate to a food bank, okay, and we're going to try to add some more good news on Fridays. We discussed this. We did this feature a while back called Undercover Angels, or Unexpected Angels, I should say. That was a song, Undercover Angels. Unexpected Angels, about people that are doing the work. And I'm going to remind folks that there are a lot of people out there who've got deep pockets that are using their money to do some good things. And a lot of it has to do with around food insecurity and shelter and things like that. So if you are in the giving spirit, right, make sure you're contacting your local food banks and asking them what they need. Don't just show up there undercover. Exactly. Hey now. Whoops. Anyway, shit. Where was I talking about? Oh yeah. Make sure you're contacting your food banks in advance. And they can then point you to other locations. Your local churches, your local community centers might have, food collection bins. You might have some at you might have some at your local grocery store. Those kinds of things, right? Those are all things that are available to you. So don't forget about that as we're, navigating through this hellscape. But Joe Neguse is right. Joe Neguse is right. And we are now at a point because the Democrats held firm on wanting to protect Americans' health care. Now, again, I got to remind you of something that's incredibly important that we can't forget. This CR is literally just the first step. They still have to negotiate these bipartisan, the appropriations, the 12 appropriations bills. This CR only goes until the 21st of November. Right? So they're going to have to figure out something before the end of the year because those subsidies are going to expire at the end of the year. Right? Satanic temples feeding people. I've heard that as well. I've been hearing a lot of stories about the Satanic temple really stepping up to feed people. They're still going to expire. So something has to be done. That it has to be done. And Mike Johnson said he's prepared to negotiate. I don't know how you can negotiate, Mike. When you tried to negotiate last night for an extra helping of pie. I told you no. Yes, what am I doing? By the way, friends, thank you for that reminder, Sam. There's a channel in our Discord. It's another reason to join our Discord. Joining our Discord is free. Just go through the verification steps, please. It's called Aid Resources. So there are people in our community that are saying, these are organizations that could use your help. This is how you get a hold of them. And if you have other organizations that you want to sponsor as well, you can go into that Aid Resources channel that is in our Discord. So please consider joining, or if you're already in our Discord, just look for that, friends. So again, here we are. Hang on one second. Let me do this. The Democrats held firm, and I think it's like I was saying before, it's an historical moment. We'll look back on this because they'll record histories, and it will be remembered as what this iteration of the Democratic Party has stood for, and MAGA's got nowhere to go. Republicans in Congress have nowhere to go now. They are stuck. They are really, really stuck because the president himself said, use the nuclear option. We're going to find out really quickly. And then what's going to happen next? We'll be watching. Will they negotiate? Will they? Will Senate Republicans and House Republicans negotiate to fix this healthcare crisis? They said they would. They said they would all along. They said as soon as the government was open, all along, they said as soon as the government was open, they would negotiate. When the government opens, Rep. Garalva gets sworn in. Once that happens and she signs a discharge petition, Mike Johnson's got 7 days to bring it to the floor. You're going to learn a lot as to what happens. Does he try to run interference? Does he try to do something? Does he try to change the rules? Has he been in contact with the Rules Committee about what the rules are regarding a discharge petition? You're going to learn a lot. You're going to learn a lot about this. A lot. You can't read the talk bubbles? It says, relax, Mike. They'll never understand. They'll never look under the dance floor. Mr. President, are you sure no one will find these? You can't read that? Sorry. Is my big head in the way? Anyway, let's go back to Halloween. That's better. Yeah, it's a fair question. Does it mean that the e-files have been scrubbed? I don't know. I don't know. Do we believe anything anymore? What is the nuclear option test? So the nuclear, okay, so for those of you who don't know, it's a fair question. So in the Senate, there's a rule that requires pieces of legislation to be subjected to what's referred to as the filibuster. The filibuster, it used to be, the filibuster itself is like a standing talking moment that you delay a vote. It used to be that. It's changed now to you just need 60 votes. So the Republicans currently have 53 seats in the Senate, which means that they would need 7 Democrats to sign the CR to get to the 60 vote threshold to pass a filibuster. That creates what's called cloture. No more discussion on the bill. And it would pass. The nuclear option gives the majority party in this case, which is the Republican Party, the ability for one member of their party to raise a point of order. It gets voted on. It gets approved because they have the majority. They don't need more than the simple majority. And then the piece of legislation that they're discussing is no longer subjected to the filibuster. So they can pass it with a simple majority. And they've had this power all along, and they've been lying about it. Now, John Thune, I will say, has not even talked about it. So I will not say that he's been lying about it. He's not talked about it. Mike Johnson has been saying it takes 60, it takes 60, it takes 60, it takes 60, it takes 60. Under normal conditions, yes, it does. But now they have this option, and now the president's made it public. So, yeah. It's just interesting that they are now in this position that they've created. So we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about Bitch Boy this morning. So here's Bitch Boy again. When I say Bitch Boy, I'm talking about Mike Johnson, my Bitch Boy.
Reality is that this has been a stalemate for 30 days, and it's not just Democrats. You also have one of the most conservative Republican senators, Josh Hawley, who says, at least please move money around to feed people. Why not consider that?
Because if you deviate from the goal of reopening the entire government, Chuck Schumer and the radicals over there will continue to play games with people.
So wait a second, Mike. So you're not actually interested in feeding kids. You're not interested in feeding kids. You just care about the political games? Because that's what you just told us. That's weird, Mike.
Is that this has been a stalemate for 30 days, and it's not just Democrats. You also have one of the most conservative Republican senators, Josh Hawley, who says, at least please move money around to feed people. Why not consider that?
Because if you deviate from the goal of reopening the entire government, Chuck Schumer and the radicals over there will continue to play games with people's paychecks.
The radicals? Friends, now people who are standing up for your health care, SNAP, WIC, federal government employees, military pay, were radicals. Okay.
Their livelihoods. And if you do just part of this, it will reduce the pressure for them to do all of it, to do their basic job, and that is reopen the government. This is very real and very serious, and they can end it today. They can do it right now. All they have to do is, we just need 5 more Democrats in the Senate to help us reach the 60-vote threshold. We don't have enough Republicans to do the right thing on our own. We need them to do the right thing.
So again, I mean, right? That is crazy to use that statement. People on the left, Democrats in Congress, are radical because they are trying to defend and protect health care for millions of Americans, demanding that the president use his executive power, executive branch authority to release emergency funds for SNAP, because that is absolutely an option. He can certainly do it. He expected, Mike Johnson has doubled down on this. He has doubled down on this from day one, expecting the Democrats to fold, and they haven't. Now, I want you to think about this in the grand scheme of things, right? This is related. The president's economic strategy has been tariffs. He's losing in court, and he's likely going to lose his argument even in front of the Supreme Court because of things that he says every single day. You can't claim that we are a powerful nation and we have to get the hottest country in the world and we're great and all these kinds of things, and then claim, international economic emergency by using IEEPA to get the tariffs, to unilaterally pass tariffs. He's likely to lose that. Your entire economic agenda is based on that. You told the American people that ICE was only going to be going after the hardened criminals. I'm going to play some sound on that because we know that that's not true either. So Mike Johnson telling the world basically that this government shutdown is because of Senate Democrats, when we full on fucking know that that's not the case. We also know the president has the power to release funding for SNAP, feeding people. They have put all of their eggs in these baskets, and the eggs have broken, and they're dripping down your chin, Mike. I know you like that in many cases, but not today, friend. So here's the problem, right? Here's the problem. Because again, it's not perfect. We already know that the rhetoric coming from the White House has said they want to harm Democrats. They're going to, in my estimation, they're going to attempt to spin this by saying, okay, you gave us the power. We're not going to extend the ACA subsidies because radical Democrats wanted it. And that statement, something to that effect, is going to harm more of their voters than anyone else. 56% of ACA recipients live in districts represented by Republicans in Congress. 78% of overall ACA recipients live in states that Donald Trump won in 2024. That's just the math. That's just the math. So we're not, even if this CR gets signed, and I have a strong feeling, I just want to check. Mods will kick me in the shin. Okay. We'll be watching the Senate today. What are they going to do? How are Senate Republicans going to respond to Mr. Trump's statement? For those of you who don't know, I won't read the entire statement. I'll just read the tail end of it because, Hector, are you in our Discord now, buddy? Thank you. You've made everybody very, very happy, especially the ladies. Me too, though. Handsome devil. Where is it? I won't read the whole thing, but he did this in a series of tweets. I want to do this in the Senate, just like the Democrats did. I'm paraphrasing. And then the follow-up statement is, because of the fact that the Democrats have gone stone cold crazy, the choice is clear: initiate the nuclear option, get rid of the filibuster, make America great again. So that is the boss. That is daddy telling his children, because Congress has abdicated their entire congressional authority to the executive branch for whatever reason. Okay, so that's happened. So now what are they going to do? What are Senate in particular? What's John Thune going to do? What's he going to do? Is he going to bend the knee? Because bending the knee now would be, okay, we're caught, we're busted. What do I do? Actually, it's cover for John Thune. He's got no reason to be scared now. It's cover because the president told him to do it. Now, if he had done it before this Timu tweet had come out, and I love that, by the way, two knees with knee pads and chapstick to make it smooth. If they had done this before, then there would be hell to pay. But now Daddy has said, do this, so if they don't do it, there's going to be hell to pay. So they're stuck. They are fucking stuck. And I'm here for it. Okay, see if do I have any more sound from Bitch Boy that I want to play? We're going to talk about cash this morning as well. We're also going to give Jared Kushner a little bit of love. Going to play some sound from Joe Rogan. Let me see if do I have everything here that I wanted to cover from Bitch Boy? Oh, here's a little bit more sound from Bitch Boy. Let's close the loop on Bitch Boy today, okay?
The Democrats shut down, and things are getting really tough for the American people. The Democrats are coming near now to a cliff that they will not be able to turn back from, and it's of great concern to everyone who's paying attention to all this. You will note that more air traffic controllers and TSA agents and park rangers are about to go without a paycheck. You've got families and children that rely upon SNAP benefits that are going to go hungry here at the end of the week. You've got more critical workers, by the way, including the people who are the stewards of our nuclear defense arsenal, who are forced to stay at home as the government remains closed. The Democrats own every one of these consequences. So we want to point out a couple of important facts this morning for you. It's no coincidence that polling this week confirms that over 70% of the American people believe the Democratic Party is out of touch.
That is, I don't know what the fuck he's talking about. That is if he's talking about a favorability rating, my guy, American citizens despise Congress. Like 30% favorability rating for Congress. I don't know what you're talking about. Who were the 70 people that were, or who were the 70% of people that were polled? What, did you go to a fucking VFW with a red cat jerk off fest? Walk in and say, how many people are in here? Who do you vote for? 70 people raised their hand out of the 100 that were in there, and they all voted for Trump? And then you say 70% of Americans think the Democratic Party is out of touch? Listen, I will agree somewhat that the status quo Democratic Party is fucking out of touch. No doubt about it. I fully agree. That's why I'm a proud progressive. That's why I want to say, hey, status quo Democrats, get the fuck out of the way. We got this. I'm going to give the keys of the car to the matriarchy. I'm going to let them drive. I'm going to stand shoulder to shoulder with them, and we're going to fix this shit because you fucks got in the way all the time. Okay? Thanks, bitch boy.
And amazingly to us, still every day, they turn their backs on more and more hardworking American families to prolong their pain. And that is exactly what's being felt here. It is incredible to us that they've now voted 14 times between the House and Senate to reject the clean, simple funding bill that would simply reopen the government.
Not clean, Mike. Not clean.
14 times they have thumbed their nose at the American people in spite of their pain that they themselves have acknowledged.
What?
And as we've explained here, the motivation behind that is very clear. And this is why the polling is indicating what it is. The people know the Democrats are responding to fear. It is their fear
of
the most radical far-left voices in their party that has made them decide to obey the demands of the far left and to shut down the entire government. And
demands of the far left, friends. What are we demanding? That people eat? That people have shelter? That people have clean water and clean air? That people have access to health care? That women aren't going to be bleeding out in hospital waiting rooms? That the disabled community gets the respect and treatment that they deserve? That every marginalized group out there, the queer community, the brown and black community, that they're respected and just left the fuck alone so they can live their lives? And conservatives are definitely afraid of that. I don't know why, but that's okay, Mike. Okay.
And thereby inflict all this pain on the people. And almost comically at this point, the Democrats are still out trying to convince you that this is somehow Republicans' fault. But the facts are the facts, and the American people can see that very clearly. They see the truth. We brought you a handy scorecard here so you can, follow the votes. I mean, this is very simple. The votes to pay the troops and federal workers and continue SNAP benefits and get air traffic controllers and Border Patrol agents paid. This is the vote tally. You see the dates here. The House did our work back on September 19th, and we voted. Republicans voted yes. Democrats voted no on all those things.
Right, why?
And the Senate has now done it an additional 13 times. These are the votes. No one can say that this is in any way the fault of Republicans. We have a clean, simple bill.
You don't have a clean CR, Mike. A clean CR, like I said, just like you don't clean yourself, Mike. We talked about your hygiene too, by the way, boo. It's got to be better. I know you model your hygiene after, your orange hero and savior, but you got to do better. It's not a clean CR. A clean CR would be no additions. No changes. That's not what is in this CR. It's not clean. You've added funding for security members of Capitol Hill, for Supreme Court justices. You've added funding for ICE agents to be in D.C. It's not clean, Mike. Stop saying that. Stop lying. Okay?
Well, and everybody knows it.
Everybody knows you're a liar. Yes. You're right. Now, I'd like to say this, okay? I know we do get a lot of trolls in here, and we do get a lot of MAGAs, and they message me afterwards, Although the death threats have dropped precipitously. I'm getting 15 to 20 a week now as opposed to 50 to 100. Anyway, do you understand what's happening now? Are you aware of this? Now, it's funny because I read the comments on Truth Social from the post that Trump put out this morning about telling Republicans in the Senate to use the nuclear option. And there's even the people that are reading it, that are followers of his, are still having a hard time believing it. Like it takes 60. The president just told you it doesn't, but it takes 60. So, MAGA, do you understand that people that you might despise politically, okay, that you can't stand politically, that you think are radical, that you think are threats to democracy, that you think are communists and whatever else, are literally fighting for your health care every day? That's what this has been about. You don't have to agree. You may not like the ACA. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of all people, came out yesterday and said, I don't like the ACA, but I'm going to vote and support extensions because it's killing, literally, people in her district. And she was very, 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 very. Hang on one second. I got to check. Hold on. Yes, Sam. I hope it's fun. No problem. So you can be mad at us all you want, but you've got Marjorie Taylor Greene. Thank you. That's very nice. You got Marjorie Taylor Greene literally saying, "I'm going to vote for this because there's no solution. We don't have a healthcare solution." She was in that meeting with Mike Johnson, famously. And he said, we've got all these plan priorities, and she asked to see it, and he wouldn't show anything. There is no health care plan. There is none. There is no health care plan being offered by the Republican Party. How many times do we have to have this conversation? Why would you support an industry that you claim that you despise the elite, that you despise the system? Well, you are supporting the system by not wanting health care reform. The matriarchy would fucking fix it. I can guarantee you that. Let's think about what the matriarchy would prioritize. Day one of a Kamala Harris presidency or an AOC presidency, whatever that might be. Let's use no one in particular, okay? Just a progressive queen who becomes the president. What do you think the priorities are going to be? Education reform, health care, getting rid of Citizens United, guaranteeing that we're feeding people, packing the fucking court with far left progressive judges so we can swing the pendulum back a little bit. They would still make sure our country was safe. They would look at criminal justice reform that would advantage people who are. I was going to say, they wouldn't defund the police. They would give community policing more opportunity to help solve crime before it starts. Right? Give mental health resources, open up community health centers. Guarantee that everybody's bodily autonomy is respected. we would be respected in the world. Right? Sign me the fuck up. Where do I sign? Like, where the fuck do I sign up for that? Food, water, shelter, healthcare. Those are my priorities. Education reform, but if I had to pick 4, that's where I'd start. Clean water, healthcare, food, boom. Overfund education, sign me up. I'm literally we are November 1st, for those parents that are out there that are dealing with, early action, early decision, your deadlines are tomorrow. It's been quite stressful around my house this week, I must say, although all the applications are in except one. The big one that my daughter wants to apply to. That's the one that we're working on. We were working on it last night. We were talking about these kinds of things. And we're just like, and I've been discussing public education and funding for education. And I'm just like, how great would it be if we didn't even have to worry about FAFSA? And she's like, well, what do you mean? I said, well, imagine if state universities were free. Now, if you wanted to go outside of your state, then you pay a tuition. But if you were an in-state student, and make it the state university systems would be free. She's like, that'd be great for people. She's like, I would still want to travel. I'm like, of course you would. But for many people, it just may not be an option, right? That's what the priorities should be. I go back to this again. What do we prioritize as a nation? We prioritize profit. We prioritize capitalism. We prioritize corruption. We prioritize greed. We prioritize status. We prioritize celebrity. MAGA, you're not going to get picked. Okay? You're not going to get picked. And this is why, I'll mention this again, hashtag do something tour, working with some great people in our community and extending beyond our community, that I'm going to go on the road in the spring likely. And I'm going to have conversations like we have here every single day with people who feel like they're disinterested or who are disinterested. I've said this to you guys many times about how I look at non-voters in 2 distinct segments. I think there's the non-voter who are the both sidesers who say, it's 2 wings of the same bird. That to me is lazy. That to me is somebody who just is disinterested. And then the larger group of non-voters, in my opinion, who are people who feel that the government just doesn't work for them. They can't see any change in their life. They just feel like their vote doesn't count. And we have to remind them, right? We have to remind them what it is that they're voting for. So I'm going to use my privilege and I'm going to assimilate in communities, whether it be in Appalachia, whether it be in northern New England, whether it be in the deep South. I want to have conversations with people because I want more people to participate in our democracy. I want more people to realize what's at stake if we don't participate. Right? I want to see that general election numbers every 4 years go from 62% to 70%. And I will take my chances in free and fair elections because we all know overwhelmingly so, that people support firearm reform, Republican and Independent Democrat, women's rights to their body, education reform, court reform. These are all things that are supported across the spectrum. And I want more people to be involved. So that's my mission. You'll be hearing more about that, but Do Something Tour, hashtag Do Something Tour. You'll be hearing more about that as we get further down the road. Okay, let's see here. We've got to talk a little bit about just some weirdness between Erica Kirk, J.D. Vance, and his wife. There's some weirdness going on here. I touched a little bit yesterday on the conspiracy theories connected. I'm not even calling them conspiracy theories. Theories connected to why Tyler Robinson didn't show up at court, why Lance Twiggs is suddenly missing, why the dots are not connected on all the things that happened, why the rifle that was used can't be taken apart in 3 minutes, why the change in costumes didn't seem to work. All these kinds of things that just don't track. Well, JD was out speaking at a Turning Point event. I'll play that for you. And there's some interesting imagery, but I want you to hear, some of you may not have heard this, but I want you to hear it. And this is J.D. Vance speaking at a Turning Point event. I think it's at Ole Miss.
You asked a personal question about our interfaith household. And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. But
hey, Sam, should I tell my communion story? I don't think I will.
Thank you. My 8-year-old was also very proud of his first communion. Thank you, guys. I'll tell him that Ole Miss wishes him the best. But I think everybody has to have this own conversation when you're in a marriage. I mean, it's true for friends of mine who are in Protestant and Catholic marriages, friends of mine who are in, atheist and Christian marriages. You just got to talk to the only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priest who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can, and that's what I try to do. I want to make a final point. So I don't want to cut you off. I want to be respectful to all the people behind you in line, but I want to make this point about immigration, okay?
So, not exactly a ringing endorsement for his marriage, now, was it? Not exactly a, no matter what, we're all in together. Instead, he said, I hope she comes around and joins me at my church, but if she doesn't, she's got free will. And then Erica Kirk takes the stage. And she says this.
No one will ever replace my husband. No. But I do see some similarities of my husband in JD. And Vice President JD Vance. I do.
Uh-oh.
And that's why I'm so blessed to be able to introduce him tonight. Because he understands the fight that we're up against. And he can articulate that in a way that transcends. He's an amazing man.
And their hug, by the way, I mean, JD was getting a little handsy, I must say. Erica in her leather pants, and he was getting a little handsy. Maybe he thought it was a futon. I don't know. But isn't that a little weird? She says, here again.
No one will ever replace my husband. No. But I do see some similarities of my husband in JD.
No one will ever replace my husband, but yeah, she had his, she had her hands and his hair, like you'd be pushing down on his head, a little extra pressure, right? If you know, you know. What? JD making it very clear that his wife has free will, and Erica Kirk, who introduced JD at the same event, says, I see a lot of my husband in JD or vice versa. There was talk of a $350,000 payment that Erica Kirk got just weeks before her husband was unalived. I don't know. Again, I am not a conspiracy theorist, but shouldn't we all question this? Right? Shouldn't we all question that? Shouldn't we all say, that was weird? That was really, really weird. So how then does that spin in the MAGA circle? So let's just game this out a little bit. Let's just game this out. 6-8 months from now, there's an announcement that JD and his wife have separated. Okay? And then just a few weeks later, months later, there's that announcement that Erica Kirk and JD Vance are now a couple. How is that explained to MAGA? I'd be really curious about that. It's not a gossip column. I'm just throwing this out there because I just think it's interesting that we should discuss it. Now, why would you say something like that? What? Hector, thank you, buddy. I appreciate you. Hector calls me TikTok's Richard Gere, but he says, I don't know what to call you today. It's still there. No, it's not. This is my natural hair color. Again, I think we have reason to question the entire thing. It's wild, especially as we read the story yesterday about all these various, people that are talking about these forensic experts. Why was the hearing moved from Tyler Robinson's hearing moved from the Tuesday or Monday of this week out to January? Where is Lance Twiggs? There's just so many things that just don't add up. Why has there been no more conversations about the investigation? Why not? Why? Why are there all these rumors and innuendos about people on his staff and phone calls and how there was apparently Israeli former Mossad intelligence agents on a security detail? Like, what? We have rights to question it, and we should. Okay? We should question it. All of us should question it. And not here to spread misinformation or conspiracies, but that is just weird. So if JD and Erica Kirk get together, how are they going to explain that? How? I don't know if they will or if they can, but they're going to try. Okay. There is this person's name is Candace Mullins, and Candace Mullins has an Instagram channel where they play Donald Trump. They use the transcript from Trump's speeches, and she just reads them. So let's take a little pause and just laugh at our president. When you don't hear his voice, you just hear his words. So here you go. This is crazy.
It's Trump without Trump. You won't have to listen to his voice or see his face. This quote is unedited and 100% accurate. This is from Trump's speech to military generals and admirals on September 30th, 2025. These are the words of the President of the United States of America. That you couldn't get people to join the armed forces. And by the way, the police also. Fire department. I always put the fire department in because they're great. They're great. And I got 95% of their vote, too. That helps when you get 95% of the vote. You always have to mention them. But they're great. And they're brave in our inner cities, which we're going to be talking about because it's a big part of war now. It's a big part of war. But the firemen go up and ladders and, people shooting at them while they're up and ladders. I don't even know if anybody heard that. And I said, don't talk about it much. But I think our firemen are incredible. They're up on these ladders. It goes way up to the sky, rescuing people. And you have animals shooting at them, shooting bullets at firemen that are way up in death territory. You fall off that ladder over, and it's over. They don't even have to inspect you when you hit the ground.
What?
And yet, people are shooting bullets at them in some of these inner cities. We're not going to let that happen. So I always mention the firemen because that's actually the problem we have. They're unbelievable like you. They're unbelievable people. Donald J. Trump.
We've gotten used to his, iambic pentameter, his style of speaking. So we tend to just sort of normalize it. But when you just read the transcripts of his speeches or just listen to him when it's not him saying it and just hear the words, dude has lost it. I am sorry. I am not a medical professional. I am not going to diagnose, but he has fucking lost it. And as a reminder, we went through this test yesterday. Remember, this is the test that he bragged about taking. This one. Okay? This is the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. This test is not given as an IQ test because that's what he thinks it was. He thinks it was an IQ test, right? He thinks it was an IQ test. It's the Montreal Cognitive Assessment. This is the test that he's been bragging about, that he took, that he thinks that AOC and Jasmine Crockett can't take. The first section is you have to draw a line from the number to the corresponding letter, 1 to A, 2 to B, 3 to C. Okay? This one, you have to draw a clock that says 10 after 12. This one is identify the aminals, and so on. This one is basically they give you a series of numbers, and you have to recite them in order. Then you have to do it backwards. Yep. And the questions don't really get any more difficult than that. This section right here about the words that you have to recite in order, this is the famous person, woman, man, camera, TV section. And then you're going to be asked 5 minutes later to say it again. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. Yeah, if you say them in order, you get extra points. This is not an IQ test. It's only given as a measure of potential cognitive impairment. And the great MRI that he had, you don't have MRIs unless there's a reason to have an MRI. Thank you. So he's losing his shit. And the worst part about all that to me is that this has been, the well has been already poisoned by people on the right because of their claims about Joe Biden's cognitive ability. Joe Biden was old. Certainly lost a step or two. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. We can have that conversation. But I don't remember Joe Biden having to have an MRI for his brain. If you want to believe the words of Trump's physician, then you have to believe the words of Joe Biden's physician. And as another point here, I want to share this with you guys real quick. This guy, by the way, everybody knows who that is. Go ahead. You guys can be thirsty. Go ahead. Everybody knows who this is. This is the guy who plays Reacher, right? I forget his name. Alan Richson. Okay? Alan Richson is 6'3", 234. Less than 10% body fat. In Donald Trump's medical report, he was listed at 6'3", 235. I'm 6'2", 230. I certainly have a hell of a lot more than 10% body fat. In Donald Trump's physical assessment, it said that he had 4% body fat. This dude is fucking jacked. He's got less than 10% body fat and is 6'3", 234. Nice. How do they superimpose my body on his face? I don't know. Anyway, so once again, it's the perception. It is the perception, okay, that his circle has created. That's what this has done. They've created him in this image that he is some fucking Adonis, that he's like this. You could cut diamonds on his six-pack. And Donald Trump's got like a 48-pack. You don't get, yeah, exactly. Joe Burrow, quarterback of the, good call. Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes is 6'3", I think 225, 230. people will fucking believe it. They'll say, should I not take the words from the doctor? And we're like, yeah, you shouldn't take the words from the doctor. Trump has a keg. Yes. Trump has a beer ball. That's 6'3", 234. Less than 10% body fat. Okay? This, again, is the test that he took. Draw a clock. 10 past 12. 1A, 2B, 3C, 4D, etc. Lion, rhino, camel. No, Sam, you can't have a camel. This section here. Cite the words in order. Person, woman, man, camera, TV. I might ask you again in 5 minutes. Can you say it again? This section here, I'm going to give you a series of numbers. You have to put them in order, ascending order. Then do the same thing in descending order. This section down here, you have to make a comparison. What do what does an orange and a banana have in common? What does a train and a car have in common? This is not an IQ test. Okay? It's a test for a cognitive assessment exam. It's the MOCA test, Montreal Cognitive Assessment. He is old. He is in failing health. And he's losing his fucking mind. And he is in charge of our government. If you want to say that Joe Biden had cognitive decline, I would say you're right, because he's 80. But he wasn't a threat to fucking democracy. He wasn't sending in the National Guard, although Stephen Miller's probably doing it. He wasn't, he's not ordering drug boats to be blown up in the Caribbean. He's not tearing up the Constitution at every fucking turn. Oh, right, because he wanted to offer student loan relief. Right. Right. Anyway, okay, let's talk a little bit about did I play this one? We're going to talk about Kristi Noem a little bit. Cuz she's in trouble too. She's on the wrong list. I don't want Kristi, although we play a little game in our mod community, FMK. And by the way, my mods are wicked thirsty. I'm just letting you know. We play FMK a lot, and they're always trying to change the rules on FMK. If you know what FMK is, it's like F, marry, kill, right? And they change the rules all the time. You don't get to change the rules with FMK. It's my game. You play it my way. They're going to kick me in the shins. I can feel it coming. Anyway, they change the rules a lot when it comes to FMK. So oftentimes Kristi Noem ends up on one of my lists when it comes to FMK. So you can play the FMK positively, like you can give I know it's an matriarch, you're right. Like I gave one the other day. What was the one I did the other day? It was Brad Pitt, George Clooney, and Matthew McConaughey. Okay, here we go. That's your list. The rules are simple though. If you marry, you can't F. Okay? That's how it works. You don't get to change the rules. If you either F them, you either marry them, or you either unalive them. Why did I say F? You either fuck them, marry them, or kill them. Okay? Matthew McConaughey, Brad Pitt, and George Clooney. And they were trying to change the rules and manipulate the game. I'm like, no, you don't do that. You just have to pick. Anyway, that's a good list. And then I could also give a list like Stephen Miller, J.D. Vance, and Jared Kushner, right? That's the other side. So I've been given lists with Kristi Noem on it. And I'm just like, oh my God. Who the fuck knows? Anyway, I digress. Back to Kristi Noem, because this is Halloween and she's been asked questions about what they're going to do in Chicago tonight. Let me play a couple of little sound bites for you from her. Here you go. And we're going to talk about some of the lies that she's been telling.
Pritzker has asked for Operation Midway Blitz to be on pause for the holiday weekend. Are you willing to do that? And if you're not, why not?
No, we're absolutely not willing to put on pause any work that we will do to keep communities safe. The fact that Governor Pritzker is asking for that is shameful. And I think unfortunate that he doesn't recognize how important the work is that we do to make sure we're bringing criminals to justice and getting them off our streets, especially when we're going to send all of our kiddos out on the streets and going to events and enjoying the holiday season. We want to make sure that they're safe. And if you see, even up here, we have individuals that we picked up off the streets with our ICE officers and CBP officers that have assault against a child pedophiles, rapes. Those individuals don't deserve to be on our streets, and we're certainly not going to let our kids be victimized by them.
Christy, your DHS, immigration, you're not allowing law enforcement to do their thing. But again, we've got numerous examples of people dressing up as ICE agents. It's Halloween. Are we to assume that everybody out on the street has good intentions? But no, you can't just let kids be kids. Okay, Christy. Okay. A little bit more sound from Christy. Here we go. This one we're going to destroy right now.
There's no American citizens have been arrested or detained. We focus on those that are here illegally. And anything that you would hear or report that would be different than that is simply not true and false reporting.
So that's their game, right? No American citizens have been arrested or detained. Really? Well, that's not what the reporting tells us now, does it? Because we know that there are dozens of examples of American citizens being arrested and detained. I can even give you some names if you'd like. Let's go through the list. Let's see here. And then I'm going to talk about what Tom Homan said. We can use the name, let's see, Leonardo Garcia Venegas. 2025 in Foley, Alabama. A Florida-born U.S. citizen, age 25, was working at a construction site when ICE and immigration officials arrived. He exhibited a federally compliant real ID, but agents reportedly dismissed it as it was fake, wrestled him to the ground, and detained him despite his reassertions that he's a citizen. Peter Sean Brown versus Monroe County Sheriff Office in 2018. Brown, a U.S. citizen, was held on ICE detainer. 2025 was held on a ICE detainer after misidentification as a deportable Jamaican immigrant. Broader legal actions happen all the time. There are reports that between 120 and 170 people who are U.S. citizens have been arrested and detained. Period. So, Christy, tell us again what's the statement you'd like to make in front of the American people one more time, proving that you are a pathological fucking liar. Just want to make sure I got it right. I don't want people to forget, because this is what you said, Christy. This is what you said.
There's no American citizens have been arrested or detained. We focus on those that are here illegally. And anything that you would hear or report that would be different than that is simply not true.
Well, it's one of two things, Christy. It's one of two things. Either you're lying or you're lying. We know that American citizens have been arrested. We know it. We know it. And you're going to stand there and tell people that the reporting is the lie, not the statements from the people. I'm a U.S. citizen. Here's my credentials. They arrested me. I'm a U.S. citizen. So those people are all lying, but you're telling us the truth. Is that what you want us to believe? Christy, boo, you don't need to wear a costume tonight. You've got it covered. In fact, your costume could be removing the 9,000 pounds of makeup that you slap on every single day. But that's going to scare the kids. Seriously, that's going to scare the kids. Real quick, let me just check in over here. Marissa says, I like the hair. Okay, I'm glad. Thank you. I appreciate that. I used to be down in the middle of my back in high school. I used to ride my motorcycle. I was a total thug. I was dumb, stupid. And thank you to Patricia. Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate you. You're very kind. Thank you so very, very much. If you'd like to support the channel, we are crowdfunded. You can do so at Factsstillmatter. Cash App, PayPal, Venmo. Let me do this. Okay, so Christy says that. Don't forget what the message that we're continuing to hear now, right? We're hearing that, well, initially, and this is why the Trump administration is getting hammered on their immigration plans, or their policies, because they told the American public that they're only going after the worst of the worst. Radicals, violent criminals, rapists, unalivers, murderers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's just not been the case at all. I want you to hear from Joe Rogan. I think that Joe Rogan kind of says it best. I don't like to give Joe Rogan any platform, but I think this is a really good summary of the things that Donald Trump has said. Then we're going to get back to Christie and to Tom Homan because I'm going to dunk on their fucking asses next.
This storming into the fucking Home Depot and arresting people. No, that's not cool either. No. The military in the street, I think, is a dangerous precedent. I definitely don't think that the government should be involved ever in dictating what a comedian can or cannot say in a monologue. That's fucking crazy. It's
crazy.
I really thought they were just going to go after the criminals. I really thought there was enough gang members and enough people, MS-13.
You thought there were because they told you there were, Joe. So, Joe, you're admitting that you're a gullible fucking hack. You're admitting that you thought there were because they told you there were. Okay.
Members and whatever they were looking for. That they're wanted, they would go after those guys. If you've been here for 25 years, you have a family, your kids go to school here, you speak the language, you're just illegal. But you're a contributing member to the community that up until now has been protected. This is crazy. You're about to ship them to a country where they've never been. They haven't been since they were 4. That shows no heart. And that's the problem. Like, you're not going to get any reasonable people to want to go along with that. Any kind person would look at that and go, this can't be the only way to do this. The thing about this Ukraine-Russia thing is, like, I think Trump grossly underestimated the amount of work that it's going to take to stop this. You know, when he was running, he was saying that one day, get me in the office and one day I'll have a deal. No, you can't just say, I'm going to be able to do a deal with Putin. You know, because I'm the alpha. He's like, really? They're kicking students out that like write articles they don't like.
Yeah, that's nuts.
It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Isn't a university supposed to be a place where someone's allowed to express themselves and have
non-violently?
Yeah. They're writing something down and they're not calling for violence either. Deporting people because you don't like who they're criticizing? Like that gets kind of shifty.
Interesting, right? I mean, we've been saying exactly what he described was going to happen. We told everybody. Hillary was right. Kamala was right. We were right. Everything. And Joe, you and your podcast, very influential, helped get him elected. You platformed him, Joe. You platformed him. You gave him a bigger microphone. That's you, Joe. And now you're realizing it? Okay. That's fine. No problem. So let's go back and let's talk about Tom Homan for a second. Because again, think of what Christy Neumann said, right? 70, what's the number that we're arresting criminals. We're only arresting criminals. Okay. Well, Tom Homan had said this a while ago. I'm gonna play this for you. Because this is the tell-all, in my opinion. Okay, and then we'll discuss it.
Federal immigration raids are ramping. Some cases sparking backlash from locals.
Hold on.
Federal immigration raids are ramping up nationwide under President Trump. From rural towns to major metro areas, ICE operations are touching nearly every single corner of the country. ICE agents are fanning out into neighborhoods from Los Angeles to Sioux Falls and Omaha, making arrests, detaining undocumented individuals, and in some cases, sparking backlash from locals. News Nation has confirmed that in just the last 30 days, more than 50 cities have seen major enforcement activity, and some state leaders are now deploying their own resources to help ICE carry out those missions. Joining me now is Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, former acting director of immigration and customs enforcement under President Trump. Tom, thank you so much for being here this morning. Appreciate it, sir.
Thanks for having me.
For starters, we know the White House stated that your initial intention was to go after the worst of the worst, but we've heard of many cases in which ICE has rounded up immigrants at work and court hearings whose only offense is being here illegally. Could you clarify who the White House is targeting in these raids?
Great question.
Well, look, there's a big false narrative out there about what ICE is doing. I read it in the paper every day, and it's a false.
Tom, you read the paper every day? Dude, okay.
Story. Because I look at the numbers every day. So looking at everybody we've arrested since January 20th, 70% of those we arrest, 70, are criminal aliens.
Okay, 70%. So follow along. We're going to do the math together. In his word, 70% are criminal aliens. Criminals. So again, supporting the narrative that came from the White House that these are criminals. It's a civil infraction, friends, when you cross the border. It's a parking ticket. It's a speeding ticket. It's a civil infraction. Bag of cash, Tom Homan. Okay? And his argument is 70%. We're going to do the math together. Okay? It continues. Let me back it up a second.
Well, looking at everybody we've arrested since January 20th, 70% of those we arrest, 70, are criminal aliens. Who are the other 30%?
Who are the other 30%? Okay.
The other 30% are national security threats. These are like the over 300 Iranian nationals we've arrested in the last couple of weeks. These are people who our intelligence community has designated national security threats, or they're affiliated with a terrorist organization. We have to arrest them and remove them from the country. Who are the remaining 30%?
Wait, the remaining 30%? Wait a second. 70, 30, carry the one. That would be 130%, Tom. What? So let me just make sure I got the math right.
People who our intelligence community has designated national security threats, or they're affiliated with a terrorist organization, we have to arrest them and remove them from the country. Who are the remaining 30%? Many of those are final order cases. These are illegal aliens who had due process at great taxpayer expense.
So what's the difference between a criminal alien and an illegal alien, Tom? How do you break that down? Let's go through the list again. These are his words. Here we go.
But we've heard of many cases
Just
in
want
which
to make sure we
ICE has
got
rounded
this.
up immigrants at work and court hearings whose only offense is being here illegally. Could you work and court hearings in these raids?
Well, look, there's a big false narrative out there about. It's a false story. Because I look at the numbers every day. So looking at everybody we've arrested since January 20th, 70% of those we arrest, 70, are criminal aliens.
Criminal aliens. Okay.
Who are the other 30%? The other 30% are national security threats. These are like the over 300 Iranian nationals we've arrested in the last couple of weeks. These are people who our intelligence community has designated national security threats, or they're affiliated with a terrorist organization. We have to arrest them and remove them from the country.
Okay.
Who are the remaining 30%? Many of those are final order cases. These are illegal aliens who had due process at great taxpayer expense, and a federal judge ordered them deported. ICE has to deport them. That's what the law declares. That's what statute requires. So ICE is simply doing their job, removing those with final orders. Those are public safety threats and national security threats, and the numbers prove it. But the false narrative is we're arresting innocent people, we're disappearing people, we're kidnapping people.
You are.
ICE is doing the same job they've done for decades.
No,
I started in 1984.
they're not.
We're doing the same thing we did back then, enforcing the law.
Do you know how many people, you bring up percentages. I'm just curious if you also have the number.
Hang on a second. Okay. First of all, 70% are criminal aliens, you heard it. 30% are considered national security risks. That would not necessarily fall to ICE. That should be the FBI, if that is truly the case. And then the other 30% are what? Are people who've gotten their due process? And how do you know? I mean, we know that you're arresting people at court. We know that you're going to Home Depot and arresting people. We know that you're arresting and detaining U.S. citizens. We know that you're arresting and detaining people who have lawful legal status to be here. We know that. Your own data tells us that. So what?
Of people that you've rounded up or arrested whose only offense is being here in the country illegally. And what do you say to people who are working?
That's right. Their only offense. I mean, again, their only offense. Are we going to criminalize that? It's a civil fucking infraction. They've been here, like Joe Rogan called it out, 25, 30 years. They're working at Home Depot. They're starting small businesses. Who gives a fuck? They're contributing to society. So this is and I'm glad she asked this question, and here's his answer.
Country illegally. And what do you say to people who, are worried about these tactics from the White House?
Well, look, first of all, as I said, the majority of people arrested are national security threats and public safety threats. Anybody?
No, that's not what you said. No. That's not what you said. You said 30% are national security threats. That's what you said. You said 30% are national security threats. You said 70% are criminal aliens. You said the other 30% have gotten their due process and they've been ordered to remove. But we're supposed to believe that? How do you know? You don't have search warrants. You're arresting people after leaving court. We've seen the videos. How do you know that? How do you know? Because your agents are showing up without warrants in many cases. The feckless fucking cowardice. I hope there's an ICE agent or two in here. You guys are the biggest fucking pussy-ass bitches I've ever seen. I hope there's an ICE agent in here. You guys are fucking cowards. Like pathetic cowards. You got cut from your JV Tiddlywinks team, and now you feel like you found a home with your other racist bigots? You guys are pathetic. Pathetic. Give me a break. God.
Look at those numbers and see that. Well, look, we're going to enforce the immigration law. There's nothing in the immigration law that says enter the country illegally. It's a crime. You can stay. As long as you don't commit another crime, you're free to go. Because if that's the message we're going to send the entire world, you're never going to fix the border problem. That's what the last administration did. The Secretary Mayorkas and President Biden told ICE agents, you can't arrest somebody for simply being here illegally.
What the fuck is wrong with that? You're going to arrest somebody. Don't forget, there were more people detained as a percentage under the Biden administration than there were under Trump. This is fucking wild to me. To
be convicted of a serious crime before you can target them for arrest. And look what happened. When you send that message to the entire world, they're going to come to the greatest nation on earth and cross the border illegally, which is a crime, get order removed by a federal judge after due process. Don't worry about it. We're not going to remove you. If that's the message we send, you're going to see thousands and thousands of more people coming to the border, which means more women and children die making that journey, which means Border Patrol gets overwhelmed, more fentanyl comes to kill Americans, more known suspected terrorists cross the border because the Border Patrol is overwhelmed what people think is innocent illegal immigration. No, we got to secure the border. And part of the securing that border is just not what the Border Patrol has done on the border, but we send a message to the whole world. If you cross this border illegally, which is a crime, there are consequences. And because we've proven those consequences, we have the most secure border in history of this nation.
Thank you for watching. Again, that's crazy. In his own statement, 70%, this is the quote, 70% people arrested are criminal aliens, 30% are security risks, national security risks, and then the rest are people who have gotten their due process. Meanwhile, we know that between 120 and 170 United States citizens have been detained that we know about. It's not ICE's job to do that. They're not in law enforcement. They're in immigration enforcement, you feckless fucking pathetic cowards. Show your faces, you fucking cowards. Pathetic. The story gets even better because of what I brought up yesterday, and I got a lot of people that commented. Because Tom Homan himself has said things like this. Let me see if I can find it. As of mid-June, of the 204,297 people booked into ICE detention since the start of this year, 65% had no criminal conviction. That is according to the Cato Institute, also ABC 7 Los Angeles, and The Guardian. Okay? So how then is it possible that 70% of the people that are arrested, according to Tom Homan, according to Kristi Noem, are criminal aliens when 65% had no criminal conviction whatsoever? You're right. Conservative is very good. The Cato was very conservative. In one region, LA, during early June, of the 722 arrests, 60% were people with no criminal activity or any history at the time of the arrest. In the DC, Virginia, Maryland region in early June, 47% of the daily ICE arrests were of people without criminal charges or convictions. Up from 21% early May. Across Colorado and Wyoming, under the Denver field office, most people arrested by ICE between January 20th and June 26th had no criminal conviction at all. A broader analysis between October 2022 and November 2024, 78% of people arrested by ICE had misdemeanor and or convictions. So the policies have certainly fucking shifted now, haven't they? ICE detaining people in the previous administration who actually had criminal records, and I want to be critical of that as well. I want more truth, more reporting. And now we know, according to their own fucking data, what's the number again? 65% of all people arrested by ICE between the start of the year and early July had no criminal convictions whatsoever. And Tom Homan and Kristi Noem and Pam Bondi and Donald Trump are fucking lying to you again because they're racist fucks and they don't like brown people. I want to talk about Tom Homan's statements about identifying characteristics. Here are some of the most controversial statements that he's made. Quote, people need to understand ICE officers and Border Patrol don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them based on their physical appearance alone. Quote, unquote. People need to understand ICE officers and Border Patrol don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them, and question them based on their physical appearance? What? What? Really? Okay. Hi, Gen X. How are you? Hello.
Happy Halloween.
Same to you.
Hey, couple points. And, I'm going to try to keep it a little light because it is Halloween. So, my DV story,
Yes.
My picture, my costume is a rising phoenix.
There you go.
So it's a little gothic.
Love that.
Trying to keep it with the
Love
theme.
that.
Little goth, yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, it's a rising phoenix. So that was a couple years ago. But anyway, oh gosh. Idea for you when you were talking about just you got to laugh at the Trump shit. You should do this. Just a suggestion, or you can do it like Facts After Dark. Like totally do like a roast about all these serious topics. Because I saw a video AOC was like, when you laugh at them, you are totally pulling away their power. They hate it. They fucking hate it. Like,
they lost their shit when we called them weird.
Oh, they totally lost their shit. They're like, what? They're this almighty, powerful, whatever the hell they want to do. Well, guys, there's this little paper called the Constitution. And right here in section ABC, it states, all are welcome, or whatever, I mean, you could do it. It's an idea, though, so. But
due process. Yeah.
So to your point, I like it. Quick. Yeah, I mean, it'll be kind of funny just to lighten everything up, just make fun of the whole, because you gotta fucking laugh at, oh my God, either laugh or cry. I can tell we're all triggered. It's just, it sucks. It's just I just woke up and I'm like, here we got this nightmare again. No one deserves this. None of us deserve it.
I agree with you.
None of us.
I agree with you.
Sorry. But you were talking about picking up. Well, here, I'm not going to kind of tell my location, but here in the Pittsburgh area, if I encourage, now here we are, 1.5K people in this live, including you, Steve. I highly suggest you go onto the Bridgeville Police Department, PA, Facebook page and look at what the cops are doing. There are almost 1,000 comments because there were 2 black people, black males, we don't know the ages, riding a tandem bike at night. And you can see the overextent of power and all the racial comments in there. Okay? And this is the police department that I've personally dealt with my own crap. And so we got a problem here. We got a problem. Bridgeville
we do.
Facebook department, or Bridgeville Police Department Facebook, in Pennsylvania. These kids apparently, and they don't know the ages, they don't know whatever, but they're clearly African American, whatever background they're from. People in the comments making racial rhetoric about their hair, what they look like, And then how the cops were like, I can't assure this won't be painless if you come in and turn yourself in. What, for riding a freaking bike? And then farther down in their page, the recent chief was promoted only because the previous chief left because he didn't want to manage a bunch of babies, little boys. Okay. No, I'm not going to drop down, Maya. I'm not.
You don't. Just ignore the chat.
Yeah,
Gen
I'm
X.
totally.
Let's land your plane here, my friend.
Insecure. Give me a break. So, but the new chief, Gary James, he's a piece of work. He was bragging about a form letter that he received for his quote promotion from Kash Patel. And you can read there in the covert comments that he'll be working with federal law enforcement agencies. So
we're going to talk about Cash. Yeah, we're going to talk about Cash in just a minute. Thanks for jumping in today.
Yeah,
Hope you have a good Halloween. Okay, be safe out there. All right.
Yeah, you too,
Thanks a lot. I appreciate you. You got it. See you later. All right. Bye. So we I just want to send you a little invite. We be TikToking. Can you come up? Because I'm curious. Because you made a comment, and I want to see if I can understand it. Because you said listening to Dems is like stopping by the kids' table at dinner, and I'm just curious as to what that means by that. I'm wondering. Again, it's easy to comment from the cheap seats. That's totally fine. But if you really had something to say that was important, you could easily just accept my invitation and come on up and talk. I would ask you to take your shoes off, although you probably have holy socks. But anyway, it's there. So let's remind people what Tom Homan continues to say. So this quote, again, this is racial fucking profiling. And like we said yesterday, the identifying characteristics that he's discussing. So when Democrats take charge again and ICE officers are now under the direction of a progressive approach to policing, but because there will be obvious opportunities to use identifying characteristics to point out people who are threats, like, a red hat or a Punisher bumper sticker or truck nuts. Because in Tom Homan's own words, people need to understand ICE officers and Border Patrol don't need probable cause to walk up to somebody, briefly detain them and question them based on their physical appearance. So we don't need probable cause. We can just knock on your door. We can just knock on your door because an identifying characteristic is what we're talking about, right? Yeah, okay. Here's some more. Quote, this is in regards to whether or not somebody can be detained. They just need the totality of the circumstances. They just go through observations, get articulable facts based on their location, their occupation, their physical appearance, the company they keep, their actions. Okay. He claimed that ICE agents are trained in this approach and receive frequent Fourth Amendment training. Really? That's good to know. In an interview, Homan said ICE uses a multi-factor rubric, reportedly an 8-point threshold for identifying alleged gang members. Alleged. That includes social media, criminal immigration records, information, informants, surveillance. Thus, according to Homan, identification is partly intelligence-driven, partly based on observables, skin color, location, associations. He appeared in an interview stating that large portions of ICE detainees have no criminal conviction and that enforcement is not limited to convicted criminals. He just told us that. Just as a reminder, I just want to play this again real quick.
Stated that your initial intention was to go after the worst of the worst, but we've heard of many cases in which ICE has rounded up immigrants at work and court hearings whose only offense is being here illegally. Could you clarify who the White House is targeting in these raids?
Well, look, there's a big false narrative out there about what ICE is doing. I read it in the paper every day, and it's a false story. Because I look at the numbers every day. So looking at everybody we've arrested since January 20th, 70% of those we arrest, 70, are criminal aliens.
Well, Tom, that's really funny, considering that you yourself have said, he appeared in an interview stating that large portions of ICE detainees have no criminal conviction. So which is it, Tom? What would you like us to believe? And that enforcement is not limited to convicted criminals. Which is it? I think I saw a surprise guest. What do you know? What do you know?
Hello there.
Hello there, sir.
Good morning. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Hello there. Good. Hello there.
Hello there.
So I had to come on and say something as a slight segue. One, thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for letting me be a part of it. But today is the last day, so the count goes bye-bye. As you know.
Oh, you're on mute.
Means no,
you're muted, buddy.
No time for this, right?
Yeah.
So keep doing what you're doing. And I find it interesting the things that you just read. And for those that don't understand policing or policing history, I would suggest that you go back to the 80s and look specifically at LAPD gang enforcement teams and the rubric that they had in the 80s. This is exactly where Homeland Security and ICE is using the exact same racial profiling tactics from the 80s and early 90s that LAPD did. Ask me how I know.
How do you know?
Because some of the guys that I train with in close quarters combat are from LAPD and LA County sheriffs, and I've seen it. So
None of us should be surprised.
Don't believe them at all. The policies have not changed since the late 80s, early 90s. It's all the same. The only difference now is that there is a very expensive intelligence apparatus, right? So they are using AI tools to help draw lines between association and location, right? Because they know certain activity happens in certain neighborhoods. So they've got, almost 40 years of data. But what we've seen here in LA is literally people just showing up at Home Depot or Walmart.
Exactly.
Right? And they are not criminals.
No.
So
that's the contradiction. On one hand, he says they're illegal, they're criminal aliens, and then on the other hand, it said the people that we're detaining don't have criminal records at all. So which is it? Which is it?
You know what the latest conspiracy theory is, right?
Which one?
That Kristi Noem is going to run for president.
Oh, I've heard that talk. Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah.
I've heard that talk.
Yeah. And I think there's some truth to the whole they want to elevate numbers business because they want to try to increase the MAGA footprint. I don't know if they're necessarily going to run for president, but what we've seen is the MAGA footprint is actually shrinking. It's not increasing.
Sure is. Sure is.
So anyway, I love you, dude.
I love you too, buddy. Well, let's connect later.
Thank you for all you do with me professionally also.
Yeah, man.
And for those of you that don't know, if you need a strategic thinker or someone to help you develop your business, fucking reach out to our guy, Dude Guy. And he'll fucking let you know. And by the way, the hair is fucking fantastic. I'm imagining you in the early 90s at a radio station.
It's true.
Not like that, bro. So, I love you, but not like that.
It's true though. Well, although not the 90s so much, but my hair was down to my ass. I rode my motorcycle to school when I was in high school, and I thought it was the coolest shit. I was like 5'11", 6 feet tall, like 145 pounds. I literally looked like a broom. Like you could flip me over and scrub the floors with me.
I was just thinking, what kind of trouble would you and I have gotten into if we went to the same fucking high school?
Don't really want to know. Don't even want to think about it. I didn't really get in a lot of trouble. I was able to talk my way out of it.
Yeah, well.
I love you, man. I really appreciate you.
I love you. And I'll give you, actually got, some of the people that I was talking about. I got a dude that we're going to go have a late breakfast and talk about some of that stuff. So I'll give you a shout. And sorry, everyone in the audience. I'll give you a shout probably like 1 o'clock my time.
Sounds good, pal.
Okay. Love you, dude.
Love you too, man. See you later.
Peace.
Yeah, Obi and I worked together a bunch of stuff, and he's super crazy busy, and I'm super crazy busy, and that's how it goes. But he's always got a spot here. Somebody said pictures or it didn't happen. I'll find pictures. It's pretty scary. I won't, listen. I could just show a picture of me in high school as a Halloween costume, and that would really suffice. Back to Tom Homan. He appeared in an interview stating that large portions of ICE detainees have no criminal conviction and that the enforcement is not limited to convicted criminals. He just told us that. So I would like MAGA to explain this to us. He told us at one point 70% are criminal aliens, 30% are threats to national security, and then the 30 other percent had due process, although we don't know if their due process was approved, if their immigration hearing was approved, and they have the legal authority to stay here. And then in the same breath, you're saying that ICE has detainees have no criminal conviction. Isn't the point you're only supposed to going after the worst of the worst? All right. Okay. 70% of ICE arrests have involved illegal aliens convicted of or charged with crimes, while the others are national security threats or gang members who often lack a criminal history. A report from factcheck.org says Homan has repeatedly claimed there are over 600,000 illegal aliens with criminal records walking the streets of this nation. There is no evidence of that at all. None. Independent data and analyses indicate that a large portion of ICE arrested detained individuals do not have criminal records. For example, in an analysis by the Cato Institute, okay, a 65% people booked into ICE detention centers have no criminal convictions. A recent article reported under President Trump, only a third of the 177,000 people arrested and booked into detention had criminal convictions. Thus, the claim that 70% have criminal records contradicts public policy, contradicts that. So again, what do we do with that information? How do we, let's be objective for a second, okay? Let's be objective. Let's just say that we support, just for the purposes of this conversation, just give me some grace here. Let's say for a moment that we support a directive that says we are going to use the authority that ICE has through Department of Homeland Security, as long as we are only arresting people who are criminal aliens, who have criminal convictions and or have obvious connections to gangs. Let's say that's the case. Let's say that we support that, okay? I think there's going to be arguments made that we would certainly want the criminal element addressed, right? So then, if that's the case, then we're on board. Then why does the data tell us that that's not what's happening? The data tells us that it's not what's happening. And when you poison the well of information, when you tell people for years that you cannot trust sources, what are we left with? In this case, we are left with contradiction from the people that are telling you that they're justified in what they're doing. You're Kristi Noem telling you that we're only locking up criminals. Where's the statement again? That we're not locking up U.S. citizens. Here you go.
There's no American citizens have been arrested or detained. We focus on those that are here illegally. And anything that you would hear or report that would be different than that is simply not true. And
we flat out know that that is a lie, Kristi. Tom Homan telling you more or less the same thing. So what would you like us to believe? When Tom Homan, your guy, your border czar, tells us that 70% are criminal aliens, 30% are threats to the homeland, and the other 30%, which adds up to 130%, by the way, have gone through due process. What? And then we know from your own fucking data. So which is it? I so badly want to levy a bad word towards her. I won't. But there are people in the circle that say that she may be considering a run for the presidency. Can you fucking imagine that? Holy shit. So once again, MAGA, your hatred for brown people, exactly, Sue. You're right. A trunt. I like that. Your hatred for brown people, okay? Your hatred for brown people has now got you to the point where you don't fucking care if they have criminal records. You do not care. You do not care that you're being lied to. You do not care that Tom Homan has literally contradicted himself numerous times. You don't give a shit. If you believe the words of Joe Rogan, right? If you believe the words of Joe Rogan, then Joe Rogan himself is telling you, like, this is bullshit. Why the fuck are we going to Home Depot bothering people? What does a person who crossed the border illegally, okay? What does a person who's running a food truck or working at Home Depot or providing for their family or contributing to their community, what has that person done to you? You would not even fucking know. But you have now been conditioned because your worst characteristics are bubbling to the surface. The fact that you despise marginalized communities so much, now you are justifying American citizens being rounded up. I know, they're brown. Exactly. Why? It just, when we tell you that you're a racist, this is why. When we tell you that you're bigoted towards communities, this is why. What's the percentage of the population of trans people in our society? Like 1%? Is that the number? 1%? Don't quote me on that, but it's super fucking tiny. People losing their fucking mind about what happened in the state of Maine over 3 athletes? 500,000 NCAA athletes, less than 10 are trans, and that becomes an issue for you? And now we've got immigration officials flat out fucking lying, not even willing to call off the dogs, the jackbooted thugs on Halloween so kids would not feel intimidated? Examples of people dressing up as ICE officers and robbing people? I mean, come on. Why? Why? What's the point? Hey, Iris, how are you today?
Fine, thank you. I hope you're doing well.
I'm
been
fine,
hearing.
thanks. What's on your mind?
That's good. I've been hearing over and over again that since Trump has become president again, the border is the most secure it has ever been. If that's the case, why are the illegal rugs still getting through? Are custom agents either not very efficient at their job or are they corrupt?
Well, it's a fair question. We know, for example, the F drug, by the way, the overwhelming majority of that is smuggled into the U.S. by U.S. citizens. It comes through ports of entry. It comes on airplanes. We know that statistically.
Yeah, shipping containers.
We know the data. Yeah, exactly.
So they're either not doing their job very well or they're corrupt. There has to be, one of those two has to be the answer.
I'll add a third. They need justification to racially profile people.
Racially profile shipping containers and drugs?
No, people. Just people.
People.
Like they're gonna use whether whether the data. I mean, whether the drugs are coming in a shipping container. They just need justification to target brown people, accusing the brown people being the ones who are smuggling it. It's just not true.
Exactly. They want to dwindle down the United States population to 100 million white people.
Stephen Miller's own words.
Yeah. Okay, that's the only question I had is something is not being done correctly with customs if the illegal rugs are still getting through.
Correct. Good point. Thank you for jumping in, friend. I appreciate you. Be safe out there. Happy Halloween. It's a really good point. We know this. This has been studied. We know the overwhelming majority of schmugs that come into our country are smuggled in by American citizens. We know that. So we can talk about the situation in the Caribbean with Venezuelan drug boats. They're not coming here. They're not. They couldn't make it that far. For example, and we know that to be true because Rand Paul, again, calling the shit out. Let's play some sound from Rand. He's been on this, right? He's been on this. He's talking about a variety of things, and he's always questioned executive authority. He believes in the legislative body being the most powerful branch of government, and it is constitutionally. So here's Rand Paul.
To restore constitutional government in which taxes are debated and voted on by the people's representatives. But our founding fathers anticipated that a president might attempt someday to usurp the powers, the constitutional powers of the legislature. Madison wrote that our constitutional government would pit ambition against ambition. The ambition of a president or ambition of the Congress to usurp power will be checked by the other. Madison, if he were here today, would be aghast to witness today's Congress that seems to lack any ambition to defend the constitutional separation of power. Emergency rule rejects the premise of a constitutional separation of power. A republic with limited powers and full accountability. Emergency rule is ruled by one person. We will perpetuate emergency rule that provides the president extraordinary powers to tax us without our consent. Is that what we're going to allow? Or will we restore constitutional government in which taxes are debated and voted on by the people's representatives? I, for one, still believe in the principle of no taxation without representation, and will vote to terminate this contrived emergency and end these unconstitutional import taxes.
Boom. Right? So Rand Paul's been pretty consistent on this. You know, he's also been the one just questioning, you know, military powers and this bullshit in the Caribbean. He's been on this. He's been pretty consistent with that, and that speaks to his brand more than anything else. But it's interesting. It's interesting that he's up there doing the shit, doing the work. I'm not losing. No, God, Harvey, dude, will you please just come up and stop chirping? Just come up and talk. If you don't want to, then just leave, because you're just not making sense. Of course, right? It's not a question of us listening to Rand Paul. It's a question of what he is talking about is the truth. He's talking about it in terms of the constitutionality of our government, about how taxes, tax policy, legislation all comes through the House of Representatives and the Senate. Why is it so difficult? Why is it so difficult to understand that? Like, why? Why is it so hard? I don't know. I don't know why people just don't want to jump on board and follow what the Constitution says. You pro-American patriots, that's all y'all. You're supposed to care more about the Constitution than radical leftists do. You're supposed to care more about your country than radical leftists do. Then prove it. Why can't you? Shouldn't be that difficult. Really, it shouldn't be. I don't know. Yeah, Rand Paul's listening to us. Good point. Hey, Toodle. How you doing, buddy?
Hey, good morning. Dobry Utra to you.
Nice to see you.
Yeah, you too, of course. Thanks for having me up on this All Hallows Eve.
Indeed.
Awesome costume. You look like my dealer, man.
Yeah, bro. Who says I'm not?
Hey, man, maybe behind the
dumpster,
the gym, and we'll get it done.
I kind of miss those days, to be perfectly honest. I mean, the dispensaries are great. I mean, it's easy, but the hunt was the best part, quite frankly. But if you know, you know. Anyway.
Yeah, this is true. And they
three-finger dime
push
bag.
You out real quick. You want to, I go to those places and I want to sit there and hang out and talk to them and discuss conspiracies and, all the stuff we used to. But they're like, it's a business. Get out.
Yeah, it's true. It's so true. I walk in. I'm like, you look under. Anyway, I could talk about that for hours.
Oh, for sure.
Anyway, what's on your mind, sir?
Well, the last gentleman, I guess Iris, was asking about what's going on with the D-rugs and why are they still coming in? And one thing for sure is that the agencies that are protecting our border and monitoring the D-rug traffic lines, they've all been reassigned or disbanded. They've been reassigned to deportations.
Sure.
So there's less CBP border agents manning ports of entry at this moment.
and they can't recruit because they can't recruit people because it's just like, yeah,
that too, for sure. And and even like, things like the FBI like has like, child trafficking stuff has been eliminated, so they can pull those agents off and put those towards deportation. So they're making us less and less safe. It's crazy.
Every day. It's the same old, bro. It's the same old. Just one lie after. I mean, we've done a pretty significant job of debunking all their bullshit this morning, like we try to do every day. But it's at some point somebody's going to be like, Jesus, they're just continuing to lie to me. And maybe those people will just either not participate in democracy or wake the fuck up for once.
Indeed.
We'll see. One can hope.
Keep up the good work.
One can hope.
Have
Thank
a great
you,
Halloween.
Appreciate you. You too. See you later.
Talk
Take
to you
care.
soon. Whee!
Bye. Yeah, I mean, if the goal is, I mean, we hear Pam Bondi talking about this all the time, right? That we have to keep the drugs off the street. Didn't at one point she say, you, Mr. President, has saved 395 million American lives this year alone. And we're like, Pam, 330 million people in our country. That includes little babies. Little babies. That includes them. So, yes, your fear tactics are interesting, but they're not working anymore because you guys have lost all your credibility. They work. Isn't that, it's how she speaks. It drives me crazy. President, we are the Department of Justice are working hard every day to make sure that our city streets are protected. It's like she's got a toy that she's using and it's catching up to her. Pushing the wrong button. Whatever. Thank you, Tracy, for your $2. Love you some facts. Appreciate it. Love you too, Tracy. But I mean, can we just call it what it is? Can we just call it what it is? Can we just call that they have no interest in governing? They just want to rule. They want to rewrite the Constitution without rewriting it. They want to remake America. Stephen Miller has talked about 100 million, wants to reduce the population to around 100 million people. Right? So, the more conversations we have about these things, friends, the more important it is because we can't ever forget that this has been happening. We're not going to let these people ever. I want convictions for their absolutely despicable, horrible behavior. Now, if somebody said, so you're talking about retribution, right? I'm like, you're goddamn fucking right I am. Because these people have gone after innocent people. Innocent people. They are arresting, they are separating families. They are dragging mothers away from their kids. Firing pepper balls at combat veterans, lying every fucking day, breaking the law, ignoring people's due process rights. Abso-fucking-lutely. Absolutely. Fucking Nuremberg trials as far as I'm concerned. Abso-fucking-lutely. Pepperballing priests. There was, if I could find the clip, I think his name is Bovino, who is like one of the leading ICE officer in Chicago. He said, we can't help it if someone innocent walks into a pepper ball. What, dude? You're not supposed to be using things like this. Tear gassing next to a school? You were told you're violating a judge's order. Happens all the fucking time. Because you're racist fucks. That's why. You don't give a shit. You don't fucking care about protecting the streets. You don't fucking care at all. Not at all. You don't give a shit. You don't care. You're criminals. Anti-American. Traitors. Yeah, that's right. Not my problem you don't like it. Stop being that way. Rambo, are you there? Rambo, does not look like you're connecting. Please come up again. Just request again. I'll bring you right back up. Good morning, Alien. How are you today?
Hi, I just have a couple things to say for like my Latinos that are listening in. Just a little bit of advice.
Sure.
So I've sat down with my family, kind of made a game plan of what we could do. One thing would be to get air tags and put them in your shoes. But not just put them in your shoes, get like one of those big Band-Aids that you could put on your skin so you could stick it in your sock. So if you lose your shoes, we can still find you.
I like that.
Yeah, another thing would be, and I'm sorry if I'm nervous. This is
Okay, take a deep breath. We got you. It's all good.
Another thing I would say is optics are almost everything. So if you are going to go out there protesting, if you are going to go out there and use your body to put yourself on the line, to consider holding an American flag up as a shield. It would be great if people would join arm to arm, put up that American flag against those ICE agents, because visually having them throw a stick at an American flag visually is not good for them. Also, dressing as the op in this situation, as hard as it is, it could protect you. So what I mean by that is go out there, put on some red hats.
Get a MAGA hat.
It doesn't have to say anything. It could just be a red hat. It's visuals, okay?
Sure.
Put on a red hat, put on a white t-shirt, put on blue jeans, okay? Hold that American flag as a fence, as a defense. These people that are ICE, they see that visually as one of their own. So it might just make it just a tiny bit harder, psychologically speaking, for them to keep attacking. So those are just a couple things I wanted to say if you're going out there. Another thing I just want to drop in really quick is that if Trump is attacking these Latin American countries like Venezuela, Argentina, et cetera, I want you to use the talking point of how he's harming children in those things. So all the pro-life people need to consider that, because as a child who grew up in Panama right after Noriega, I saw what Americans are capable of. And I was a military child living on a military base. So the PTSD that they cause, think of the kids, the innocent kids, because there's even American children that will be involved in those attacks, because we have bases everywhere. So I just wanted to share that. Thank you for what you're doing. And
my pleasure.
Let me go.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you very much. You did a great job. Deep breath. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. Those are all, I mean, everybody teaches own. Everybody's own safety should come first. I like those ideas. I think the visual, I'm big on the visuals, right? You wrap yourself in a flag. If you're out there, it's going to be a really rough look for somebody dragging somebody away with an American flag in their hands. I mean, these are the little things, right? This is malicious compliance in a way. I like that. I really, really like that idea. It may be a stretch too far for somebody to try to assimilate as with a red hat and a white shirt and jeans. I get it. But again, we're talking about public safety. And I think you'll see a very clear line between, so what's that going to look like, right? The visual on TV of an ICE agent dragging somebody that draped in an American flag. That's going to be an interesting visual. That's going to be a very interesting visual. So thank you for that, friend. I appreciate it. Okay, I want to revisit a couple of things because we're not going to forget about this, about the use of lawfare coming from the current administration. Literally hiring and appointing complete loyalists to go out for political retribution and legal retribution. So this was reported on by NBC News. The situation with some of the indictments against James Comey and against Letitia James, and how much they are failing miserably. So here's the story. This is Lisa Rubin talking.
Them have made this motion to dismiss their indictments on the grounds that Lindsay Halligan was unlawfully appointed. Our indictments on the grounds that Lindsay Halligan, for us to rule on that, we are people who see the U.S. Attorney's Office before us each and every day. The statutory scheme here gives power to the judges of the district if there's a vacancy, and therefore we're sort of conflicted here. So they pushed the matter off to the Chief Judge of the Fourth Circuit and said, you appoint somebody to hear these motions, and the motions have now been consolidated with this judge, Judge Curry in South Carolina. She's going to come to Alexandria, Virginia, sit in the courthouse on November 13th and hear oral argument on these motions.
Judge Curry seems skeptical.
Judge Curry does seem skeptical, but Joe, she issued an order in both cases yesterday that has some people scratching their heads as well. And here's what she's asking for. She's telling the government by Monday at 5 p.m., which is not coincidentally the day on which they have to respond to these motions to dismiss the indictments because of Lindsay Halligan, you also have to give me all evidence of Lindsay Halligan's involvement in the grand jury proceedings affecting both Tish James and Jim Comey. Now, there are some people who look at this and say, this should be an open and shut issue. Lindsay Halligan signed both indictments. By all accounts and reporting, she's the only person in the room.
Well, I mean, the judge knows this, though, right?
I mean, think about that, right? Think about what they're saying. Like, this person should never even been appointed, potentially.
You should respect President Trump.
Dawson, would you like to have a conversation, or do you want to troll? Are you here to argue or to learn?
I'm here to debate civilly.
We don't debate. Okay, this isn't a debate. Are you here to argue or are you here to learn something?
Both.
Okay, so both. Okay, so are you a Trump voter?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so can you objectively grade his performance so far this year?
I'd say gas prices, grocery prices, the ballroom.
I'm asking.
Ending war in Palestine.
Dawson, well, that didn't happen because Israel just lobbed more missiles into Gaza. I'm not sure you're paying attention. I'm asking you to objectively grade him, not to talk about the things that he's talked about. I'm asking you to objectively grade him.
Oh, A+, definitely.
So you're just here to troll. You don't want to.
No, I'm not here to troll. I'm here to just tell you facts.
You can't. You can't possibly say A+.
I mean, what's wrong with A+?
Because an A+ would be no room for improvement. So an A+.
I mean, yeah, he's ended 8 wars already.
Which wars has he ended?
Some war in India.
Some war in India. So you don't know shit, right? Basically, you're just here to troll.
I mean, he mentioned he ended 8 wars. So you're gonna call our president a liar?
Yes, I am. Yep.
He's not.
No, he is. He is. Did he lower gas? Did he lower grocery prices for you on day one, like he promised?
Yeah, he did actually. They went down 3%.
No, they're actually up. So let's do me a solid. Can you do me a favor? Let's do this. Let's start again. What'd you have for breakfast today?
I had waffles.
Nobody fucking cares. I love waffles. So this situation with this court case. Let me finish the sound here.
Right? Sounds like a setup.
Well, I think part of it.
I'm not saying in any bad way. I'm saying she knows the answer, but she wants Lindsay Halligan to say it.
Well,
it was just me.
And maybe exactly that, which is to say, if you know where this is headed from a legal perspective, maybe you want to shore up your legal analysis with more evidence so that you can say, I'm not just relying on public reporting, but I know now on the basis of these grand jury transcripts that she was the only person in the room. And I can see from the face of both indictments that she is the only one to have signed it. That makes Lindsay Halligan totally differently situated than, let's say, Alina Habba in the District of New Jersey, Sigal Chaudhry in the District of Nevada, and even Bill Saley, who last night was ruled by another court to be the third Trump-appointed acting U.S. attorney to have been found acting unlawfully. So now we've got 3. The question is Lindsay Halligan going to be the 4th? And is it going to have a more detrimental effect on these 2 very high-profile cases that she's brought? Because unlike in those 3 situations, she signed the indictment.
So here we go. This is what happens when you want loyalists to do your bidding. Okay? The gentleman, I think his name is Eric Siebert, who was in the position that Lindsay Halligan is now, the U.S. Attorney for the Northern District of Virginia. He was well respected. In fact, he was going to be on a short list for people to gain prominence within the Trump administration. He resigned because there was no evidence to indict Jim Comey. There's no evidence here. I have no evidence. I'm not going to indict him. He got booted. Question is whether he fired or he resigned. Anyway, either or, he left the post. He made it public that this is nonsense. There's no fucking case here. None. Lindsay Halligan, don't forget that infamous tweet that came out from Donald Trump, a DM to Pam Bondi saying, people are laughing at us. It's the same old. We're not doing anything. And he mentioned James Comey. He mentioned Letitia James. He mentioned Adam Schiff. He mentioned others by name. A day and a half later, Lindsay Halligan gets the appointment because in that same direct message to Pam Bondi, he mentioned her, and then she does this shit, and then she indicts him. And now she not only was completely incompetent because she got laughed out of the courtroom by the judge because, like, you gave me 2 documents here. You signed them. And which one am I supposed to use? And she couldn't even answer the question. So she's getting mocked because she's incompetent. When you put loyalists in position who are unqualified for the job, this is what happens. Think of the people that we have in positions of authority in our government right now. Pam Bondi, she was the AG in Florida, but she is a bona fide fucking liar. Kristi Noem, give me a break. Give me a break. Kash Patel, give me a fucking break. Emil Bove, he is a bona fide fucking Yahtzee. Stephen Miller, Pete Hegseth, RFK Jr., Dr. Oz, Howard Nutlick. These are the people in charge of government. These are the people. Yeah, that's me, Jay Bird. It's me. Hi. These are the people in charge of our government. These are the people that are executing policy, even though there is none. Linda McMahon, great call. They have Russ Vought. Exactly. Talk about DEI. No doubt about it. It's crazy. It's crazy. I'm not. It is an homage a bit to Brett, but it's just because it's Halloween and I feel like you have to do something. But my head is like super itchy. But I'm going to tough it out for another hour and a half. That story I think is wild because they've gotten their hands slapped so much. They're not going to have to show up on Monday and say, "Listen, these are all the things you've told us. Can you please give us the entire transcripts of what you were told, how you were told, who told you?" She'll be out of her position. So that'd be the 4th U.S. attorney, acting U.S. attorney appointed, and they're all going to be disqualified. That's what you get when you hire fucking incompetence. Speaking of incompetence, I'm going to play some sound now. This was that famous interview that Steve Witkoff and what's his name, Jared Kushner did on 60 Minutes. This was right around the time of the supposed peace deal that was signed between Israel and Gaza, and we know that is already fractured. Oh, I lost my headphone. You know what I'm reminded of with this hair? Remember that scene in Trading Places when Dan Aykroyd, Lewis, has been they've negotiated the deal and he's down in his luck and he's lost everything and he's got the Santa suit on and he walks into the Christmas party at Duke and Duke and he grabs the piece of salmon and he's eating the salmon through his hair. Anyway, so this famous interview with Steve Witkoff and with Jared Kushner, this was right around the time that they signed the ceasefire that has since crumbled. Okay? I just want you to listen to this nonsense. And the expectation is that people will just accept it as normal. So here you go. I'm going to have to watch Trading Places tonight, I think. Here we go.
You have both done a lot of business with the Gulf states, billions and billions of dollars worth of business. And you've done some of the business.
Which is true, and neither one of them deny that. Billions and billions of dollars with the Gulf states.
Wow, this negotiation has gone on. And that has raised some issues of conflict. I mean, some blurring of a line between, what you're doing in terms of foreign policy and benefiting financially from what's going on.
Yeah, so first of all, Leslie, nobody's pointed out any instances where Steve or I have pursued any policies or done anything that have not been in the interests of America. Number two
perception?
But Lizzie, we can't spend our time focused on perception as much as we have to focus on the facts. We're here to do good. These are impossible tasks. And because this is important, I've volunteered my time to help the president and Steve try to make progress. But Steve nor I will be involved.
Jared, volunteering your time would be something that a person who is altruistic and philanthropic in nature would do. You are negotiating deals that directly benefit you. It's not whether or not you are volunteering your time. You made a couple of $1 billion when you left the White House the first time. And here you are again. Volunteering your time?
In awarding contracts or figuring out who does business, in Gaza after.
Well, from my standpoint, Leslie, I'm not in business anymore.
But your family is.
Exactly.
But I've divested. Like Jared,
God. Your family is enriching themselves because of what you're doing as an emissary for the federal fucking government, my dude. Come on.
Receive no salary, and I pay all my own expenses.
This is
because you're a multi-billionaire, you fuck.
Become an issue.
What people call conflicts of interest, Steve and I call experience and trusted relationships.
Oh, that's it. Right. We're just going to rebrand conflict of interest. We're just going to call it relationships. Even though we are enriching ourselves personally with the protection of the federal government. My father-in-law, by the way, sits behind the big desk. Steve Witkoff saying, I've divested. Well, you're like almost 70, dude. All right? You got a lot less runway in front of you. Your family is enriching themselves because of what you're doing. Wow.
Relationships that we have throughout the world. If Steve and I didn't have these deep relationships, the deal that we were able to help get done that freed these hostages would not have occurred.
What people call conflicts of interest, Steve and I call experience and trusted relationships that we have throughout the world. If Steve and I didn't have these deep relationships, the deal we were able to get done that freed those hostages would not have occurred. But the Biden crime family, right? It is I apologize that I've not spent enough time talking about just that level of corruption because there is so much of it. I mean, come on. Steve Witkoff, but I've divested. You just acknowledged that your family is getting rich. Jared Kushner, your claim is what people call conflicts of interest, Steve and I call experience and trusted relationships. So is that what we're going to do now? So a single parent who lost their Medicaid, Medicare, SNAP benefits decides to go rob a grocery store. In your mind, that person can say, what some people call petty larceny, I call providing for my family. Is that the game we're going to play now? What some people call conflicts of interest, Steve and I call experience and trusted relationships? Is that how we're going to play this now? That we can just turn corruption into something entirely different? Really? That's what we're going to do now? That's quite a stretch. Because it is a bona fide conflict of interest. Hey, buddy, how are you?
What's up, everybody? Happy life.
Happy Halloween.
Happy Halloween. That's right. My oldest got one of those blow up chicken outfits where it's it's to blow up like all the people at the protest and stuff. It's hilarious.
Oh, I love that.
Hey, I am calling to I want to come up and just say let everyone know I recently decided to start a food drive in my town. It blew up. I was on the news yesterday. I just talked to the governor's office. I'm trying to get in touch with anyone I can to help get donations. I'm not here to ask for donations. I'm here just to say, honestly, I would never have done that if I wasn't have met you, Steve, and been on your lives and things like that. So honestly, this is something that I would have never done had I not met and been involved with you and the family here. So good job, man.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you, buddy. It's all you. Appreciate you.
It is a lot of work, I'll tell you that. It's very depressing to see how many people are asking for meals. I didn't expect this many at the same time. I'm not going to let it slow me down, and I'm going to do whatever I can to make sure some people get some food. So that's the most important thing. And to everyone here that listens and is involved in every day, just do something, everybody. # do something.
Hashtag do something. Fill me in on. I want to talk about the interview at some point today. Fill me in, and good for you for doing that. I appreciate you, buddy. You're a good man.
Yeah, they only ended up doing like 2 seconds of me at the end, which is fine because I was talking like an idiot. But it's all good.
I appreciate you, bud. Talk to you later. Okay.
Later, all.
Be safe out there. That is fabulous. So I'm going to use that to kind of pivot a little bit to talk about other examples of people out there in the world doing good. I'll just pick one randomly. Let's go through the list here. Everybody give me a number between 1 and 5. Let's see what number I get first. What's the number that's going to come up first? 5. Okay. Number 5. Let's see. A librarian in Wyoming was awarded big bucks after allegedly being fired for defending LGBTQ plus books. In 2023, a librarian named Terry Leslie was fired from her station. A girl refused to bow to the bigots who tried to pressure her into deleting social media posts celebrating Pride Month and defending the LGBTQ books on the shelves of her Campbell County, Wyoming library. The situation got a lot of attention, and soon after, Terry lost her job. She alleged that she was fired because of her refusal to remove these inclusive books from the shelves, but the library officials deny it. And she sued their asses. Hell yeah, Terry. That's an ally right there, folks. The good news, while the process has been lengthy and the library and government officials who were responsible for letting her go refused to admit any wrongdoing, a settlement has been reached. After a 2-year battle, Terry walked out of that courtroom $700,000 richer. I hope she treats herself to one of those trays that you read that you have on the tub, because that girl deserves a good story. That's good news. I'm going to read another one. Let's see here. There's been a major breakthrough in HIV research, despite the powers that be doing all they can to defund it. Recently, an international research team led by University of Cologne in Germany discovered a new antibody that has the ability to neutralize almost all known strands of HIV. Up until now, most antibodies only had the ability to suppress HIV strains in the short term, but this new discovery is proving effective at permanently reducing the HIV viral load to undetectable levels. Now, in the words of Love Island baddies, it's early days, love. So there's still a good deal of research and testing that needs to be done. If the research team is hopeful, then that would be helpful in the long term. So I think that's an interesting story because, again, research team at the University of Cologne. Why is that important? Because federal funding being cut from university research labs in America is exactly why we talk about these kinds of things. I've been open about my daughter's cancer treatment. Her treatment protocol came from university research done. She's part of a cancer oncology study group. That's where the money came from. So cuts to federal programs, right? Cuts to funding for universities and colleges. That's where the bulk of research globally, not just here, that's where the bulk of research comes from. It comes from university labs that are either funded through government grants, philanthropic donors, whatever that might be. That's where these gains that we make in healthcare discoveries that have impacted the lives of millions of people, that's where they come from. So shout out to the University of Cologne for that, making that progress, and shout out to brave ass fucking librarians everywhere. Our friend Amber. Shout out to librarians, shout out to teachers, shout out to medical professionals, shout out to researchers for all the kinds of things that they do, because they are literally the unexpected angels in our life. Unsung heroes. Every single day. Every day. And a lot of colleges and universities have been standing up. Some will, some won't. It's going to be their choices. But that's where that's why these investments in these colleges and universities are so important. So, a little good news. Keep tapping, friends. 1,200 people in here. Can we get to 350K? 1,000 likes? I appreciate that. Good morning, buddy. How are you today? Buddy, are you there? Okay. I can't have that in my brain because that's going to make my head explode. Yeah, we got you. Every Friday, we're going to make sure that we spend some time talking good news. Hey, Purple, how are you?
Hi, Steve. Happy Halloween.
Same to you.
I didn't actually mean to request. I think I was tapping, but since I'm here, I just wanted to say happy Halloween. And just to remind everyone to please donate to your local food banks. I've reached out to a church that is like right down the street from me, where we do the Tesla protests. They've been very active in letting people park there, so we can protest Donald Trump and Elon Musk. So I reached out to them to see if we could set up something for like a pop-up food bank. I'm just waiting to hear back. I did see on their website that they already do like a free meal once a week for people, free breakfast. So I'm sure they would be open to that. So I'm just waiting to hear back. But on the Book of Face, in the local community groups, there's a lot of information in there of where you can go to get food as well. So join your local Book of Face groups to find out. That's another good resource. And then I'm in Ohio, I'm in the Cleveland area. So the Cleveland Food Bank is like the biggest one. And that's where I've been donating.
Just as a reminder, we've been telling folks this to make sure you're contacting your local food banks in advance just to find out what it is that they need. And they oftentimes, what will happen is if they will guide you to say, you know, we are good on this, we could use these items. Oftentimes people forget about their pets, you know, cat food, cat litter, dog food, feminine hygiene products, all those kinds of things. But oftentimes if they're full, because many times they are limited by storage, they'll direct people to go where they could accept donations. So just a little tip, just to, you know, contact your local food banks in advance.
Yep. And also too, a lot of times if you don't want to go to the store, you can just donate money to them too, because they have contracts with like bigger stores where they can get things for a discounted price. So sometimes the best thing to do is to just donate money to them.
That's true too.
So either way, it's you know, just hashtag, like you said, do something.
Indeed. I appreciate you, friend. Thanks for being here. Be safe out there.
I
Happy
appreciate
Halloween.
you too. You hear my monsters.
Take care.
You too. Those are my
bye.
monsters. Bye.
I love it. See you later. Yeah, again, what I'm hoping that part of this whole do something movement that we've been that's really sort of taking on a life of its own is to remind people that, yes, we tend to think about donations during the giving season. We tend to think about donating to food banks. And listen, I understand it's tough. And I understand there may be people in our audience who may have never, ever had to use a food bank before. Don't be ashamed. Don't be. This is why we talk about these kinds of things, because people are hurting. And there's a lot of people who care. There's a lot of people who want to do everything they can to try to make your life a little bit better. Even if it's for a half an hour, even if it's for an hour, even if it's just a chance for you just to really, you know, we have this term in our little family, we talk about taking your flowers. And I struggle with that too. I'm getting better at it, thanks to you guys. You know, for when you do something kind for someone, right? And you don't do it for praise. I never do. But when you're helping people, that should make you feel good. And if you need help yourself, don't be ashamed, especially men, right? That patriarchal script that you have in your head. Right? That script you have in your head that, you know, you can't ask for help, or you can't accept help. You know, you'll suffer in silence. Just don't. It's really okay. It's really okay. That's why we do these kinds of things. So people can be reminded that there's other people that are struggling too. And we're always going to find things, yeah, but somebody's got it so much worse. But your pain's yours. Right? You could be struggling too, and that's your pain. Your pain is yours, and your suffering is yours, or your happiness is yours, or your joy is yours. I've been sending positive thoughts to our mod team before we start the show today, and today's forgot what it said exactly about spreading jam. What was the quote? Let me see if I can find it. Said, let's see. Hold on. Happiness is like jam. You can't spread it without getting some on yourself. And we always talk about this in terms of how joy is resistance, right? You cannot pour from the cup if the cup is empty. Got to fill your own cup first. Why do they tell you on an airline that if the oxygen mask drops down, you put it on yourself first so you can put it on other people's, right? So there's hope out there. Stay focused on what matters. Keep your moral compass pointed where it's supposed to point, helping others any chance you can get. And it doesn't have to be monetary. It can just be your time. Things like that. Okay. Got some more folks that requested up, and I'll bring some other people in. Good morning. How are you today?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
Fine, thank you. What's on your mind?
I heard a lot of people that are donating to food banks, and that's wonderful. And if that's okay, I just kind of wanted to share my journey that I'm going on with the food banks that I'm donating to. My college is doing this food bank, and I've been reaching out to different grocery stores. And I luckily found hopefully 3 that are going to donate. And I'm just super excited just because I've used this college's food bank before. And it means a lot to me to donate, and just seeing everyone on your panel just coming up and that's donating to their local areas is really great. And I wanted to mention that not only do food drives need food, but like personal hygiene products and feminine products are super important as well. So I just wanted to share that.
I appreciate that. Thank you for that call out. Thank you so much for doing that. And thank you for reminding people that these little things help all of us, because you never know. It could be you. So thanks for being here today, friend. I appreciate you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
You got it. Have a good day. That's right. Right? So it's the little things. Imagine it's just the little things. Like it's just the one thing. I believe activism is a muscle that has to be exercised like anything else. So the more you start to do stuff, the littlest things, the more it becomes organic. And somebody sees you, like the random acts of kindness thing, right? Simple little things like you hold the door open for somebody, maybe somebody holds the door, maybe they hold the door open for somebody else. Maybe you see somebody who's down on their luck and you offer to help them with something. Or maybe you just do something about taking the fucking cart back to the cart corral. Just little things, right? That was the whole push when I was starting to think about do something. That's where it came from. Just like these little things that we can all do. Little things, right? Don't do it in hopes that you're getting something back. I firmly believe in karma. I really, really, really do. I believe the more positive energy you put out in the universe, the more it's going to come back. I don't do it so it comes back to me. I do it so it comes back to others. I got a lot to give. I am a giver by nature. And sometimes it's overwhelming because I want to help everybody. But we've created a community here, right? Every single day, there's 1,500, 2,000 people in here listening to me. And I appreciate that. And if the message is getting through, I think it's starting to get through. I think I've had a lot of people reach out to me and say, Fish Trucker, saying what he said, that means a lot, right? When people reach out to me and say, I've never considered doing these kinds of things before. I never even thought about that before. That is powerful. That's what the Do Something Tour is all about. That's what this whole thing is about. So when you see me out there, wherever it may be in the future, that's where this community has powered me to do that, because of what I've seen you all do for others. This community that we all created together, right? This community that we've all created together. That's the whole point. And then we all become ambassadors of kindness, whatever you want to call it. Ambassadors of goodness, whatever it looks like. Because there has to be a reason to fight. We cannot just say, there's got to be a reason. Identify a target. When I first started working in radio years ago, I was 17 actually. My boss said, imagine you're talking to your best friend and not talking to 100,000 people or whatever the number is, depending on where you are. And I always thought about that. So I'm having these conversations today with you. I'm talking to you. I'm not talking to the 1,100 people that are in here. I'm talking to you. And I believe in that shit. It may sound corny and it may sound old-fashioned, but I believe in that. So I'm going to hold on to that for as long as I die, as long as I live. That's my goal. And it seems like it's starting to work. So thank you. Thank you, some of the customer friend. Okay. Thank you for letting me get in my soapbox a little bit there. I appreciate it. Hi, Larry. How are you?
Hey, Steve. I don't want to be not positive, but yes, everybody should help in the best way they can, and if you need help, don't be ashamed to ask.
Correct. Correct. Especially men.
Yes, right. I'm very concerned about our near future. Mike Johnson has said the government shutdown could go into 2026. He doesn't care. And meanwhile, you may have talked about this. I haven't heard you say it, but the October 8th internal memo went out to the National Guard from Major General Ronald Burkett.
I have not heard that.
Okay. So it instructs each state to create and train QRFs, Quick Reaction Force. 500 per state, except for Delaware is 250. Training for rapid nationwide deployment for crowd control and to quell civil disturbances. So,
interesting.
Yeah, that tells me they're going to try to militarize the states, and I feel like that opens the door for federal takeover of elections next year, which is the plan.
Martial law. Yeah, I hear that. I think it's going to be interesting how that works, because currently in our system, and this is going through the courts now, state National Guards report to the governor. So the attempt to try to federalize is what's being litigated. So we'll see. So the court has been, the court has been really has really shown up. I want to say that the courts have really shown up recently. So we'll see. We'll see how far it goes. We'll see how far it gets to the Supreme Court, because we're going to need some help. We can't do this on our own. We're going to need some help. So hopefully they will. Hopefully they'll step in. But thanks for bringing that up, Larry. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
You got it. Have a good day. See you later. Again, these are the kinds of things that we have to be kind of watchful on. Thank you, Larry, for sharing that with us. So yeah, if the plan is to federalize all 50 states' National Guards, once again, it becomes the rhetoric that we heard for years from the right about states' rights, right? States' rights. You don't want the federal government telling you what to do. So how then do you explain it? I say these things often because this is what we told you guys was going to happen. And you said that we were crazy. When I read that quote that Donald Trump prior to the election said he's going to terminate articles, rules, and even those found in the Constitution, people on the right called me fucking lunatic. You're fear-mongering, blah, blah, blah. It happens every single day. We see it every day. Every day. Thank you, Brooke. Here's the story. Top U.S. military official has ordered the National Guard of all 50 U.S. states, the District of Columbia, and U.S. territories to form a QRF, Quick Reaction Force, trained in riot control, including the use of batons, body shields, tasers, pepper spray, according to an internal Pentagon directive reviewed by The Guardian. The memo signed October 8th by Major General Ronald Burkett, the Director of Operations for the Pentagon's National Guard Bureau, sets thresholds for the size of the QRF to be trained in each state, with most states required to train 500 National Guard members for a total of 23,500 troops. As authority, Burkett cited Donald Trump's August executive order that deployed the Guard to fight against crime in D.C., which is federal territory. Let's be clear about that. Same order required the Secretary of Defense to create a standing National Guard Quick Reaction Force, or QRF, available for rapid nationwide deployment in quelling civil disturbances. Janessa Goldbeck, former U.S. Marine Corps captain and chief executive of the Vet Voice Foundation, a nonprofit advocacy group, said the order represented, quote, an attempt by the president to normalize a national militarized police force. In a worst-case scenario, she said, the president could declare a state of emergency and say that elections are rigged and use allegations of voter fraud to seize the ballots of secure voting centers. Pentagon did not respond to repeated requests for comment. A spokesperson for the National Guard Bureau declined to comment on concerns that Trump is seeking to normalize national militarized police forces or could potentially use the force to seize ballot boxes. Yeah, but that's fine, right, MAGA? It's totally fine. Nothing to see here, right? Or start a war in Venezuela. Nothing to see here, right? Where are you, patriots? Where are you? Where are you, America First patriots? Where are you? Where are you? Where are you? All we heard, you fucking pathetic traitors chirping for 4 fucking years. The actual tyrannical government is right here. So are you gonna grab your arms? You gonna take up arms against that tyranny? Where are you? Where are you, traitors? I see you. I see you. We all see you. We won't forget. This is what you wanted. This is what you wanted. You don't care about the rule of law. You don't care about your country. You don't care about the Constitution. You don't care about men and women who've served, non-binary individuals. You don't care. You do not care. And you show us every single day. Meanwhile, progressives, liberals, Democrats are fighting for your family's health care, making sure that the states that you live in, who are already the largest recipients of federal funding, programs like SNAP and WIC and Medicaid, Medicare, and the ACA, we're fighting for your shit. What are you fighting for? You hate brown people? You hate the queer community? You hate the disabled community? Every fucking marginalized. Oh, at the top of the list, you can't stand women. Why? Why? I'll remind you, MAGA, that women literally make eyeballs and spinal cords in their fucking body. How about once in your life, you praise the fucking queens for what they deserve? You just, but you're fine with building a ballroom. You're fine with $40 billion to Argentina. You're fine with the Trump family, by the way. First quarter of last year, their profits were $51 million. First quarter of this year, their profits went to $864 million. But that's fine, right? Nothing to see here. That's totally okay. And for some reason, you think you're going to get picked. Do you think you're going to go to the ballroom? Do you think you're going to get invited to the next state dinner? Is that what it is? Do you think you'll get an invitation to the grand opening? Really? Is that what you think? Do you think you're going to get the invite? Do you think you'll be included on the guest list? You think you're going to get your Doge dividend check? And by the way, since if Doge was supposed to cut the deficit and reduce our debt, how come it's gone up? Kevin D., you're a coward. You're in the chat every single day. I send you an invite every single day, and you won't come up. That tells you a lot. That should tell everybody about you, Kevin, because you can't defend any of this shit, and you know you can't. You just want to throw out AOC, Pelosi. It's such an old script. We just laugh at you. Are you on Medicaid, Medicare, Kevin? Do you understand that Democrats are fighting for you to keep it? We want you to have a quality of life. We want you to be able to make more money, have affordable housing, not have your food prices go up. But you don't care. You don't care. You don't give a shit. You don't care. You don't care about any of it because you hate brown people so much, queer people so much, women so much. I want to go back. I've not forgotten, nor will I ever forget the cover up, the blatant fucking cover up involving the White House and the Epstein files. So I'm going to play a little sound for you. This is pretty wild. This is Kash Patel being interviewed by Secretary Kennedy.
Has some serious explaining to do.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Here's the question again.
Traffic these young
again.
Did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Oh.
Okay. So you heard it. When asked the question, who did Epstein traffic these young girls to? And Kash Patel's response was, no one. He trafficked them to himself. That was one Senate hearing. Okay? Here's another one being questioned on the same topic. Remember, from his own words, he said, my own words, that he never trafficked anybody to anybody other than himself. Really? So, Kash, how do you explain this then?
Make something crystal clear. I never said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic other people, other women, and they're not other victims.
Yes, you fucking did, you fucking liar. Yes, you did. Do I need to play the sound again, Kash?
Explaining to do it.
You've seen most of the files. Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself.
Himself. Okay, cool. What was that statement again? You said himself. And then what are you going to say now?
Crystal clear. I never said Jeffrey Epstein didn't traffic other people, other women, and they're not other victims. This is the investigation we were.
Yes, you did. Yes, you did.
Given from 2006, 7, and 8, and the search warrants from 2006, 7, and 8. That's what we're working with.
Wait, have you released all of the stuff that the FBI has seized from Epstein's house? The computers, the emails, the file cabinets, the documents? What about the financial records? Have you released all of that?
Everything the court has allowed us to
Which court are you talking about?
3 separate federal courts have come in and said...
We're talking about the evidence you've got. It's got nothing to do with what those courts have.
Do you have any idea how the law works? Do you want me to break the law in a federal judge's order?
No, I want you to follow your own word, Director Patel. You said up there it was under the direct control of the FBI director. He had the black book.
Everything I have direct control over, we have gone to court. You haven't.
Complete your sentence. Everything you have direct control over, you said.
Have gone to court, and everything we have direct control over.
Complete your sentence. You said everything.
We're releasing.
Much more has come out in the days since the American people in Congress have been demanding it, but it's coming out in dribs and drabs. Why don't you just release the entire file as you promised to do?
I literally just told you, there are multiple federal court orders. I'm not going to break the law to satisfy your curiosity. You didn't join us when we filed court to release the court orders. You could have. You have lawyers. You could have shown up. You didn't do that.
Let's talk about the witness interviews. 302s of witness interviews.
Dan Goldman now.
Those are not subject to the court order. Those are not subject to any fictional sealed order for a search warrant. Why aren't you releasing those with the redacted names of the victims?
We are releasing as much as legally allowed. That's why we went back to
how is that not legally allowed?
Sir, do you know how court orders work? Do you know how protective orders
Actually,
work? You know
Mr. Patel, I was a real prosecutor for 10 years. I know exactly how.
So I was a fake one?
You are hiding the Epstein files, Mr. Patel.
The gentleman is expired.
You are part of the cover-up.
I just want to point out that in his own words, he said that he was only trafficking these girls that he abused to himself, and then days later said, oh yeah, I never said that. Auntie Biscuit, how are you, friend?
Hello there, how are you doing? You okay?
I'm fine, how are you?
Not so bad, not so bad. Just thought I'd pop up and help you with this particular subject, but also to inform you about what Trump has done with Venezuela. He's ordered strikes within the country of Venezuela, declared effectively declared war against the country. So
cool. No new wars though, right? Yeah, that's great.
No new wars. Well done, MAGA, you morons. And on this issue about the e-files, I'm on a British account, so I got to be careful how I put this. I'm not sure if the Americans really care or actually necessarily realize just how big this is to literally strip a crowned prince of their titles in the UK.
Oh yeah, I saw that. Yeah, please go ahead. Please, yeah.
No worries. So not even Prince Andrew, Mr. Andrew. That's what his name is now, Mr. Andrew. He has been removed from the role of peerages. He is now a commoner. He has no, there are some issues that need to be ironed out, like, for example, he's still technically in line to the throne, and that would be if the worst case scenario were to happen. but he is going to be removed from that at some point. It's the first member of the royal family that has been completely stripped of everything in centuries. The last person to voluntarily do anything of this nature was King Edward, which was just before World War II, and that was because of his sympathises with the Yahtzees and the Moustache Man. But he abdicated his position. To strip somebody is a very difficult thing to do, and it's going to take acts of parliament and everything like that for that to actually fully go through. But what this does do, and for all of the MAGA in the chat who are like, King Trump, whoop whoop, and all of that BS, it does add a significant amount of credence to all of the claims being made, because it's not an easy thing, what we have done. And don't get me wrong, Mr. Andrew is going to be investigated by the Metropolitan Police, and he could even face jail time at this rate. The way things are going, more evidence is being released. So my question to all the MAGA in the chat, and I'm sure host will give me an answer himself as well. Why is it that so many MAGAs are unwilling to admit that you have a serial rapist at that, as president? Why are you not willing to admit that the political right has a big problem with sexual assault and molestation against women and children? Because that's what we're talking about here. We are talking about children when it comes to e-files. We're talking about young girls, underage young girls, and apparently there's some boys in there as well mixed in.
Correct.
But and where is the lack of acceptance of the fact that your guys are dangerous and they need to be dealt with? And one final question: why is it that when it comes to these issues, mental gymnastics take place that suddenly make it a topic that, oh, well, what about the trans people? Sorry, the statistics are out there. Trans individuals don't generally go around raping people. Trans people generally don't go around sexually assaulting people. Now, am I going to say that no trans person has ever done that? But no, I'm not, because there's always one or two bad eggs in every community. But all I will say is that there appears to be a significant clutch of bad eggs in the MAGA and the global political right wing, who think they can do anything, whatever they want to young women, girls, and indeed boys.
Thank you, Auntie. I appreciate you jumping in today. I'll drop you down and I'll answer your myriad of questions. But thank you for being here, friend. I appreciate you very much. Thanks a lot.
Take care.
You got it.
Bye-bye.
See you later. Well, just for clarification too, we've not seen any definitive that strikes have been ordered in Venezuela, but yet troops are preparing. That's what we know at this point. But I think the simple answer to your question is, why does the right? Because they don't believe it's possible that people that they support in their party are capable of doing these things. That's part of it, because they've been indoctrinated to think that the threats, the predators, the horrible people are on the left. When you hook your entire identity to this particular movement, this white Christian national MAGA movement, when you hook your entire identity to it, right? You cannot admit of the things that we see every single day. You cannot admit them to be the truth, because your entire identity is gone. Period. So many of them don't care. Yeah, I would agree. Let's just take their words. Let's just use their words that they claim to care about children, which is why they want trans women, trans athletes out of sports. They claim to care about kids because they want children to be born. They claim to care about kids because they don't want LGBTQIA stuff taught in school, because they're concerned that their children are going to be indoctrinated. Meanwhile, what's actually happening is religious leaders, community leaders, Republican elected officials, by and large, most of the time it's white men, conservative Christian white men are the ones that are guilty of the crimes against children and women that they claim they're protecting. And at the end of the day, they don't want to feed kids. Right? Yeah, girl sports need funding and safe coaches, not MAGA talking points. Thank you, Andy. Yes, completely agree. And then Kash Patel, who has a history of saying that the FBI director, before he was the FBI director has got the power to release all this shit, and then literally lie in back-to-back statements saying that J.E. only trafficked to himself. Now, you're asked a question in a safe space by Foghorn Leghorn, Senator Kennedy from Louisiana. And then the next day, you're getting pressed, and then you say, I never said that. Yeah, you did. I just played it for you. One time, just one time, if I had an opportunity to interview them or to be in the press pool to ask them questions, man, I'd probably get removed, but I'd go down swinging, that's for sure. It's fucking crazy. It's crazy that this is everything they have right now. Everything they have is connected to a lie. Policy, economic performance, their rhetoric around about the National Guard, around no new wars, all of it. Everything is a lie. Hi, Heather.
Hello. How are you this morning?
I'm wonderful. How you doing?
I'm doing good. I was thinking about this. You know who's really making money out of all of this is lawyers.
No, sure, yeah, absolutely. And don't forget, there's preferential treatment given to certain law firms if you agree to do certain things. Yep. So that's, again, part of the process, but no corruption at all. Nothing to see.
All the government does is sue itself. You know, it's just this back and forth stupid lawsuits, and these lawyers are making a killing. It's just disgusting.
Girl with two dogs. Yeah, I say don't hate on all the lawyers. Well, there's an old joke I like to spread. How many lawyers does it take to pave a driveway? Just one if you slice them thin enough.
That's funny.
Yeah. So due respect. But you're right. Yeah, but this is the system that we now have, right? But this is just, there's one level of corruption on top of another. Who are the people that continue to enrich themselves? The people who already have money. Yep. Predators protecting predators. Criminals protecting criminals. So it's just, but
it's like we're living in the upside down.
We are. Thanks for jumping in today, friend. I appreciate you as always.
Oh, I had one more thing.
Oh, sure. Go ahead.
MAGA, I came up with a term that I've been using for a long time. Holier than thou. They literally think they are holier than thou in every way.
Completely agree. That's exactly it. I appreciate you and love you more. Talk to you later.
All right. Thank you. Have a good Halloween.
All right, bye. Thank you too. Thank you to Charles. Help the cause. Love the show. Thank you very much for that. Tracy, love you some facts. Love you too. Patricia says hi. Thank you very, very much. I appreciate you very, very much. You guys are amazing. Let me just check over here real quick. Leah, thank you so very much. You're super kind. Happy Halloweeny and Free Speech Friday. I appreciate you. You're very kind. Again, the entire thing is a lie. All of it. No new wars? I mean, come on. So how are they going to spin this now? Well, that's not a war. I'm just waiting for, I've got a busy weekend. We are in the stretch run of our show. There's all kind of stuff going on. The deadline for college applications is tomorrow. Going through that last night with my daughter. A little bit of stress, but we're working it out. But I'll find some time to go to Right Wing Spaces because they're too afraid to come here. They can't defend this shit. They need a panel of 9 people to spread their lies and their misinformation together. And what bothers me is that there's just an unwillingness to hear the opposition. Unwillingness. I don't debate bigots. If you want to come in and have a conversation, you guys know I'll talk to anybody. I don't give a shit who they are. I have a limit. If you don't want to engage, and I think one of our mods, it might have been Sam who said this, do you want to argue or do you want to learn? I'm not interested in arguing with you over things that are easily proven and or disproven, right? I just want to have an opportunity to say, okay, if we disagree, think of it this way when you're talking to people, right? Let's just use the government shutdown, for example. Okay? If I were to say in a conversation, right, you're moderating, and I'm sitting on one side of the table and a hardcore Trumper is on the other side of the table, and they said, well, no, the Democrats are the reason why the government is shut down because there needs to be 60 votes. And then I would say, well, the Republicans have the nuclear option that they can use. And then the person on the left says, no. On the right says, no, that's not true. And I say, yes, that is true. How do you break that tie? Other than by having a conversation about the facts, citing now that the president has said Republicans use the nuclear option. There has to be a willingness. That's not me breaking bread with Nazis. That's me saying, you're wrong about that, and this is how we know you're wrong. You're wrong about SNAP benefits being held up because the president has the authority to do it. You're wrong about that. Now, I'm a pretty good debater, I must say. I was in debate club. I was in debate club in high school and college. You know, I've trained political candidates to debate. I'm pretty good at it. So I know when people are using debate tactics that are easily debunked, when they start resorting to ad hominem attacks, when they start to pivot off the topic, those are indications that they're losing. And that's what happens a lot. So in an attempt, because at the end of the day, we're going to need some MAGA voters to stand out to this bullshit. The Gish Gallop, you're right. I'd say if you're dependent on votes, you need to negotiate, not demand. Yeah, that's a fair point. If you're dependent on votes, like if you want bipartisan support, then maybe you pick up the phone and say, okay, let's try to solve this healthcare issue. But no. And that then brings me to the story that I wanted to read yesterday that I didn't get to. It's about how the Republican majority emerged. These are things that I've talked about, and again, this is great journalism. This is reported on from the Atlantic. 50 years after the Republican Party hit upon a winning formula, President Trump is putting it all at risk. In July of '69, Kevin Phillips, a 28-year-old staffer in the Nixon White House and special assistant to the AG John Mitchell, published a book boldly titled "The Emerging Republican Majority." For nearly 4 decades, the Democratic Party's New Deal coalition had dominated American politics. But in the book, Phillips argued that the old order had come to an end and that a new conservative era was in the offing. Nearly 500 pages long and filled with facts, figures, and maps, the emerging Republican majority contended that the GOP needed to move beyond its traditional base in the Northeast and reach out to white voters in the South and Southwest, a region Phillips dubbed the Sun Belt. And in suburbs across the nation with polarizing appeals on racial and social issues, the book attracted significant attention, appearing in bookstore windows nationwide. Newsweek christened it the political Bible of the Nixon era, while National Review called it the most important political book of its generation. The emerging Republican majority has loomed large in the minds of political operatives and observers ever since, as an essential guide to the Republican Southern strategy, which, of course, the conservatives want to deny exists, even though that there's a book about it. That's wild, right? No such thing as a Southern strategy. Well, a book that was dubbed the Bible for conservative politics talks about it, so I don't know how it couldn't exist. But anyway, an essential guide to the Republicans' Southern strategy that gave modern conservatism the depth and durability of New Deal liberalism. For his part, Phillips always insisted this was a misreading. The book was not and is not a strategy, Northern, Southern, or Western, he noted in the preface of the 1970 paperback edition. The book is a projection and one with a high batting average to date. Read it as such, he said. In truth, it was both. Phillips' projection was grounded in his assessment of recent Republican strategies. At the same time, he asserted that his analysis offered the best hope for the party's future, pitting racial and ethnic groups against one another, telling us all right out loud, not political strategies, cultural strategies. Jesus. Pitting racial and ethnic groups against one another and capitalizing politically on the competitions and resentment that followed. The whole secret of politics, he said. He told journalist Gary Wills during the 1968 presidential campaign, is knowing who hates who and who we can tell who to hate. That year, the GOP had convincing reasons for following Phillips' lead. The segregationist Governor George Wallace made a strong showing in the South and elsewhere with a shoestring campaign as an independent, demonstrating that opposition to integration played well with some working and middle-class white voters. Does that sound familiar? You could look at the electoral maps before the Civil Rights Movement, and you had a large chunk of conservatism, Republicans at the time, in the Northeast and in the Great Plains states, what it's referred to as the West Belt. And the South, as they just identified, were more liberal. It's flipped. It's a conservative liberal mindset. It's not party affiliation. It's an ideological affiliation. So the Republican Party became significantly more conservative. And look at the maps now. Look at the maps now. This book pointed it out. Similar strategies. Okay? George Wallace, a segregationist, made a strong showing in the South and elsewhere with a shoestring campaign as an independent, demonstrating that opposition to integration played well with working and middle-class white voters. Integration. Right? Immigration. Integration, immigration. It's the same fucking message. We can't have the society we want because in 1960s America, before civil rights, it was black people. Now it's the immigrants. Phillips saw the potential if Republicans exploited tensions over civil rights, he argued, they could attract white voters in traditionally Democratic Southern states, as well as in the Midwest and West. And if Republicans won those voters, they'd win the mantle of power too. 50 years later, it's tempting to draw a straight line from the emerging Republican majority to today's Republican Party. The GOP has come to dominate every part of the Sun Belt for the same reasons, just as Phillips had predicted. And President Trump has mobilized the politics of division in a way no modern president has ever come close to. Quote, objects in the mirror really are closer than they appear. Luis Menad wrote in the New Yorker last year, it's not that far from Wallace to Trump, and it's not. Closer look at the initial reception to the emerging Republican majority shows that the line to Trump is less clear. Despite Phillips' position in the Nixon White House, administration officials were deeply divided over the book's recommendations. Nixon had won the Republican nomination by forging a centrist path between liberal Nelson Rockefellers and conservative Ronald Reagan, and then won the presidency by similarly positioning himself between the liberal Democrat Hubert Humphrey and the conservative populist segregationist George Wallace. Moving to the right on racial and social issues seemed risky to many in the Nixon camp, but some enthusiastically supported the idea. The administration waffled between right and left for 2 years, but in the 1970 midterms went all in with a strategy to exploit racial and social divisions in campaigns across the Sun Belt. Phillips' critics turned out to be right. The results were dismal. When Nixon acknowledged as much after the election, he promised to pull himself back to the center. But the strategy didn't die with Nixon. It'd be revived, combined with a new emphasis on social issues and used to great success in the 1980s to secure the Republican majorities that Phillips had prophesied. Now, President Trump is exploiting racial and social divisions even more aggressively than did Nixon in the 70s, and in the process, he risks consigning Republican majorities to the past. At its core, the Republican majority called for a literal redrawing of the electoral map. The two parties had, with few exceptions, claimed different corners of the country for the better part of a century. Democrats in the solid South of the former Confederacy and Republicans in the old Union of the Northeast and Midwest. But Phillips argued these territorial tendencies were fading and urged Republicans to work harder to speed their disappearance. Quote, the Civil War is now over. The parties don't have to compete for that little corner of the nation we live in. The Republican analyst told a reporter in New York, who needs Manhattan when we can get the electoral votes of 11 southern states? The idea of swinging the South to the Republicans was not Phillips' invention, as he readily admitted. While Southerners had been drifting away from their traditional party ties for decades, in the late 1930s, Southern Democrats in Congress had forged a conservative coalition with like-minded Republicans to fight the New Deal liberalism. Despite this working alliance, Southern Democratic congressmen remained in the party, not least because Democrats dominated Congress, and as a result, their seniority within the party guaranteed them a good deal of power in the committee systems. But the Dixiecrat Rebellion of 1948, led by South Carolina Governor Strom Thurmond, showed that party ties weren't permanent. In that campaign, Southern officials and ordinary white Southerners alike began to abandon the Democrats over civil rights. Once again, when we have these conversations about the party switch, we have these conversations about the Southern strategy, conservatives don't ever want to accept that because they want to say the Democrats and the Triple K and blah, 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 blah. And yes, a party label, certainly. But that's why I talk about things in terms of conservatives versus progressives. Which political party now flies the Confederate flag? Which political party now is drawn to white supremacy? What political party now brought the Confederate flag into the Capitol on January 6th? What political party now is embraced by David Duke, former head of the Triple K? What political party now has connections to all these white supremacist, paramilitary groups that are scattered across our country? Republican leaders saw an opening. Guy Gabrielson, the chairman of the Republican National Committee from 1949 to 1952, hoped to bring disaffected Dixiecrats into the GOP. Quote, the Dixiecrat Party believes in states' rights. He told an Alabama gathering in 1952. That's what the Republican Party believes in. Seeking to craft a coalition of Southern Democrats and Northeastern Republicans, Gabrielson commenced negotiations for what he called a trial marriage at the top, in which nominally independent Dixiecrats would pledge to support the Republican nominee in 1952. Gabrielson's scheme never came to fruition, but the GOP nominee still cracked the solid South. Dwight Eisenhower won 3 southern or border states in 1952, Florida, Tennessee, and Virginia, and 5 in 1956, Florida, Tennessee, Louisiana, Kentucky, and Virginia. As he prepared for his own run for president, Arizona Senator Barry Goldwater likewise tried to bring white Southern conservatives into the Republican fold. But rather than proposing a partnership between the South and the Northeast, Goldwater wanted to connect Southern Democrats with libertarians and conservatives in the South, Southeast, Southwest, and West. And in 1961, a speech that he gave to Southern Republicans in Atlanta, Goldwater famously declared that the GOP should, quote, hunt where the ducks are by writing off the Negro vote and pursuing Southern whites instead. Man, our country's fucking racist. Capitalizing on the white Southern backlash against civil rights was central to this strategy. But by the mid-1960s, overt racism was an ineffective method of courting Southern voters. The region's most successful politicians adopted more muted appeals to racial issues, and Goldwater proved to be a skilled practitioner of this approach. Instead of, quote, direct racist appeals, he used a kind of code that few in his audience had ever had any trouble deciphering, noted the New Yorker in 1964. In making federal involvement in social, cultural, and economic issues the ostensible focus of his opposition, rather than race itself, Goldwater managed to reassure the South that he would protect the status quo while simultaneously appealing to, quote, the libertarian sensibilities of the West and Southwest. I believe that it is both wise and just for Negro children to attend the same schools as whites, Goldwater wrote in the conscience of a conservative. I am not prepared, however, to impose that judgment of mine on the people of Mississippi or South Carolina. Social and cultural change, however desirable, should not be affected by the engines of national power. So, soft racism. This is a story from The Atlantic. I will have the mods posted in the chat. Okay, back to it. Goldwater lost the 1964 election in a national landslide to LBJ, but the election returns showed a silver lining for the GOP. Aside from his home state of Arizona, the only states Goldwater won were in the Deep South: Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, South Carolina, and Louisiana. What do those states have in common, friends? I think you know. While Eisenhower had made inroads in the South by adding states from the region's edges to his national coalition, Goldwater focused on the ducks of the Deep South, and with convincing results. Mississippi's path was instructive. While GOP nominees had won less than 25% of the state's vote in 1956 and 60, Goldwater took a whopping 87% in 1964. Moreover, his Southern coattails helped elect a new generation of Republican, whose vocal opposition to civil rights had been the centerpiece of their own campaigns. In an extreme example, Prentice Walker, the first Republican congressman from Mississippi in a century, celebrated his 1964 victory with an appearance before a KKK front called Americans for the Preservation of the White Race. Yeah. The results became clear. The South was ripe for Republicans. Remember, the strategy was to appeal to white voters. The strategy was to appeal to conservatives by using race. The strategy was to appeal to white voters at the expense of, again, hate the term, Negro voters. It was the strategy. It literally, the blueprint for how they could win elections. Not from policy, not for helping the middle class, but just to pander to racists. Kevin Phillips studied these returns obsessively, concluding that many white voters in the Southwest and in the suburbs shared with white voters of the South an uneasiness with civil rights advances and growing African-American political power. The principal cause of the breakup of the New Deal coalition, according to Phillips, was the, quote, Negro problem. If Republicans could capitalize on that racial tension, their party would profit. It's fucking wild. Phillips was not interested in a partnership between estranged Democrats in the South and Republicans in the North, which Gabrielson had imagined 20 years earlier. The old Republican establishment of the Northeast, Phillips argued, was crumbling as a result of its acquiescence to liberalism. Rather than including the Northeast in an electoral coalition, Phillips argued the region was most useful as a provocateur of resentment elsewhere. It's the same strategy. Northeast elites, intellectuals, Antifa, that's where the headquarters are. It's the same strategy. They're appealing to the same type of people now, still using black and brown people, but in particular now the target is immigrants. Instead, Phillips called for the uniting of the South and the West, as Goldwater had hoped, while also appealing to another group, the growing suburban electorate. The key to wooing white voters in the Sun Belt, according to Phillips, was taking advantage of, quote, group animosities and exploiting racial tensions, once again knowing who hates who is very important. And we're going to tell you who to hate. Ethnic and cultural animosities and divisions exceeded all other factors in explaining party choice and identification. Phillips' research landed him a role in Richard Nixon's 1968 presidential campaign. Think about that. Think about that. Leonard, by the way, and who has a back tat of Richard Nixon? Just as a little non sequitur here. Anybody know? Who's got a massive tattoo of Richard Nixon on their back? Do you know who that is? Guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. I'm going to prove it right now. It's a non sequitur question. Roger Stone. Who was an advisor to Donald Trump as far as his political strategies? Same guy. Phillips' research landed him a role in Richard Nixon's 1968 presidential campaign. Leonard Garment, one of Nixon's liberal-leaning advisors, recalled hiring the young man. Quote, after scanning a manuscript Phillips had handed me in lieu of a resume, something called the emerging Republican majority, Phillips used his research to frame a Goldwater-like strategy that indirectly appealed to racial resentment through criticism of the federal government and an emphasis on law and order politics. The fulcrum of realignment is the law and order Negro socioeconomic syndrome, Phillips wrote in one 1968 campaign strategy memo. Nixon should continue to emphasize crime, decentralization of federal social programs, and law and order. Nixon's 68 campaign emphasized the need to roll back LBJ's Great Society liberalism, civil rights, and embrace a tougher law and order attitude toward urban riots and anti-war protests. Now, if you didn't know that this story was from 1968, you could insert it into today's politics in the GOP. To roll back Great Society liberalism and embrace a tougher law and order attitude toward urban riots and anti-war protests. Urban riots? Nice dog whistle. Anti-war protests? Antifa are the enemy. Okay. His championing of a silent majority that had grown tired of protests for civil rights and other causes helped him win over much of the Upper South, taking back 5 states for the Democrats. The independent candidacy of the Alabama Democratic Governor George Wallace, who won 5 southern states that year, stymied Nixon's efforts to replicate Goldwater's success at Deep South. Phillips wasn't deterred. He argued that Wallace's independent run, like the Dixiecrat campaign before it, was simply a way station in the migration of white Southern conservatives. They had left the Democrats for good and would soon join the Republicans. We'll get 2/3 to 3/4 of the Wallace vote in 1972, he confidently predicted. Although Phillips declared the emerging Republican majority to President Nixon and AG General Mitchell, few in the administration wanted to associate themselves with the book. When it was published just 7 months after Nixon's inauguration, heavyweights in the Nixon White House pushed back. The speechwriter William Safire called the book dangerous, noting that a tacit writing off of any area is a big political mistake. Even Nixon's Southern strategist, Harry Dent, a former aide to Senator Thurman, warned against acknowledging the shifts in regional priorities. We should disavow Phillips' book, Dent wrote, and assert that we are growing strength nationally. In his first year, the Nixon White House constructed a centrist image by coupling a host of conservative initiatives with a handful of liberal-leaning ones. This approach was clearest on civil rights, where the administration deliberately sent different signals to different constituencies. Nixon nominated to the Supreme Court 2 white Southerners who had, to varying degrees, resisted civil rights. For example, when the Voting Rights Act of 1965 came up for renewal, Mitchell testified against it. But at the same time, Nixon and Mitchell worked to ensure the peaceful integration of the last Southern school districts that were still segregated. It's fucking diabolical, man. The administration deliberately furnished some zigs to go with our conservative zags. Domestic Policy Chief John Ehrlichman reminded the president he pointed to the administration's support for affirmative action in the Philadelphia Plan as an example. On the surface, Nixon's support seemed out of step with his campaign promises. The Philadelphia Plan stemmed from one of LBJ's most aggressive civil rights policies. But Nixon's aides saw it as a way to fracture the New Deal by pitting civil rights organizations and labor unions against each other. Before long, Ehrlichman later chuckled, the AFL-CIO and the NAACP were locked in combat over one of the most passionate issues of the day. And the Nixon administration was located in the sweet and reasonable middle. In contrast to this zigging and zagging, Phillips urged a clear move to the right on racial and social issues. If you intend the pure conservative line, which Phillips peddles, a confused Ehrlichman told the president, someone had better straighten me out. Safire similarly argued that the administration belonged in the center with a solid appeal in both directions. But some of Nixon's advisors welcomed Phillips' call for a starkly regional strategy. The speechwriter Pat Buchanan called Phillips a genius of sorts. Pat Buchanan, talking about racially oriented politics as genius. Nice. While a young Nixon operative named Tom Houston argued that Phillips was right about what made certain constituencies tick. The blue-collar white worker, Houston said, fears that blacks are going to take his job or move into his neighborhood or beat up his kids at school. Does that sound familiar? A few years later, Houston became infamous for devising a plan to spy on Nixon's political enemies, which ultimately contributed to Watergate. In the short term, Phillips' preference for polarization won out. The administration redoubled its efforts across the Sun Belt to win over white conservatives who had previously left the Democrats for Goldwater, Wallace, or both. To do so, they borrowed heavily from the Wallace playbook. pressing the racial issue bluntly. I wish I had copyrighted my speeches, Wallace said in 1969. I would be drawing immense royalties from Mr. Nixon and especially Mr. Agnew. But the results of the 1970 election showed that Phillips had misread the tea leaves. Democrats held control of both houses of Congress, picking up a dozen more seats in the House, while Republicans picked up only 2 seats in the Senate. Nixon realized the strategy had failed. We probably went too far overboard, he conceded in a 30-page analysis. He said to his chief of staff, H.R. Haldeman, changing tactics, Nixon suggested more outreach to minorities, workers, and the young. I ought to have symbolic meetings with all types of minority groups. The need of the president to be at least appearing to make an effort to communicate with all parties should be good. But Nixon still sought to win over white voters. When busing emerged as a divisive civil rights issue, Nixon exploited it for all it was worth, even having Assistant AG William Rehnquist draft a proposed constitutional amendment to outlaw the practice. When career lawyers in the Justice Department promoted busing, Nixon came down hard on them. Knock off this crap, he wrote Ehrlichman in 1971. I hold department heads accountable to keep their left-wingers in step with my express policy. When 2 more vacancies opened up on the court, Nixon instructed his attorney general that the nominee had to, quote, be against busing and against forced housing integration. Beyond that, he can do what he pleases. Not surprisingly, that spot went to William Rehnquist, the same person who was part of this anti-busing bullshit racist policy. With this strategy, a subtler appeal to the resentment of whites in the South, combined with some centrist policies and even an effort to court minorities, Nixon won the 1972 election in historic fashion. His 60.7% of the popular vote was the third largest share of any presidential contest in the 20th century, behind only FDR and LBJ in 1964. Phillips considered the election a vindication of his work. He had dismissed the 1970 midterms, noting that at the time, his strategy was a presidential strategy that does not apply in off-year elections. But 1972 counted. And in that race, Nixon won every single Sunbelt state. The Republican majority seemed to have finally fully engaged. Any vindication Phillips felt that Nixon's landslide win was short-lived. Republican Party suffered devastating losses in the midterm elections of 1974. Partly because of the backlash over Watergate, the resignation of Richard Nixon, and Gerald Ford's controversial decision to pardon him. The GOP's gains in the South were abruptly reversed in the next presidential election when Georgia Democrat Jimmy Carter won, with the exception of Virginia. As the Republican Party's fortune soured, conservatives soured on Kevin Phillips. There's an eccentric theorist writing about around stuff about major trends in American politics, said William Buckley, 1975. His name is Kevin Phillips. A few years ago, he wrote a book called The Emerging Republican Majority, which was a most fascinating volume, suffering only from the massive inaccuracy of its predictions, said James Berman, editor of Buckley's National Review, and was even more dismissive. As things turn out, he noted, Jimmy Carter, who seems to be putting the majority together under Democratic auspices. But Republicans would not have to mourn for long. Throughout the 1980s, GOP nominees racked up massive victories, with the South emerging as the party's most reliable region. Think about why, okay? Reagan took every state in 1980, save Carter's Georgia, and then Reagan in 1984, George H.W. Bush in 1988, won the entire South. Democrats pushed back in 1992 and 1996 with Arkansas Governor Bill Clinton, Tennessee Senator Al Gore at the top of the ticket, but Texas's George W. Bush reclaimed the entire region for Republicans in 2000 and 2004. As the Republican majority took shape in these decades, its architects insisted publicly that their work had nothing to do with the blueprint, the emerging Republican majority. Distancing themselves from Phillips's work, much as the Nixon administration itself had done, in a 1981 interview, the Republican strategist Lee Atwater insisted that the Reagan campaign had been a stark departure from the old Southern strategy, which, in his words, had been based on coded racism. The Reagan blueprint was based on appeals to economics and national defense, Atwater argued, with race delegated to the back burner. Finally, the risk for Republicans, of course, today is that Donald Trump has upset this balance, rejecting old dog whistles on race for full-throated racism. Unlike Nixon, who disastrously tried such a strategy in his first midterm, but then dialed it back considerably in his second, Trump has doubled down on race-based themes that failed to work in his first midterm. In doing so, he runs the risk of reversing decades of work and rendering the Republican Party a thing of history. Thank you for letting me read that. I think it's a reminder to all the things that we talk about. It was a strategy. It was a cultural strategy to diminish minorities, in particular black people in the post-civil rights, because as you heard it, they identified what we're hearing are white people are concerned that black people are going to start to gain political power. It's the same fucking model. They are using the blueprint, and they're using the blueprint on overdrive. They are doubling down on it. Title of this article is How the Republican Majority Emerged, and it's written by Doug Grossgall, spelled Grohsgal, and Kevin Cruz, Kruse. That is what we are fighting about, friends. There is a political party in our country, a conservative movement that is now the Republican Party, that is doubling down on racism because they know it helps them win elections. I don't know how else to say it. I really don't know how else to say it. Again, conservatives, Dixiecrats, Republicans, Democrats, the electoral maps have flipped by design. By design. Where are Confederate flags flown today? That's the answer. The Triple K supports Republicans. YT supremacist paramilitary groups are heavily conservative. Those were the people those were the insurrectionist traitors that showed up on January 6th. This is why I'll say it and I'll say it again. It's all white people until it's none. We are the problem. We've always been the problem. Our society is being held back because of it. Yes, it's all men until it's no men. It's all white people until it's not. I'm not offended by that. I know it's true. Question is, what are we going to do to fix it? Knowing what our history is. Knowing that a system built by people who look like me, to defend people who look like me, to protect people who look like me, to advantage people who look like me. I don't know what else to say other than that. Take one more guest and then we'll call it for the day. Fish, are you there? Fish? We can just listen to the messaging that flows through conservative politics these days, whether it be coming from Turning Point, where Charlie Kirk says you should question a black pilot, right? That black women aren't qualified, like Ketanji Brown Jackson's not qualified, Kamala Harris not qualified, right? It's where we are. So people suffering in our country is because of racism. I'll call it what it is. It's not just racism, but that's at the front and center. It's a political strategy by design, going after the fears of aggrieved white voters. It's true. Fish, good morning. How are you today? Hello? Fish, are you there? Hello? Can't hear you, friend. Fish God? Last chance. Okay. Anyway. We're going to call it there. This is the fight. Okay? This is the fight. Yeah, the title of the story is How the Republican Majority Emerged. Subtitle is 50 years after the Republican Party hit upon a winning formula, which was racism, Donald Trump is putting it at risk. Is he? He's putting it at risk because he's not lying. He's not hiding it. No more subtle innuendos. It's full-on racism, full-on bigotry, full-on white supremacy. If you don't want to be labeled as, if you do me solid, if you don't want to be labeled as such, then stop being one. We're going to wrap there today. Who are we going to raid, guys? And I have to end the YouTube. I will do that. Thank you all for being here. No Facts After Dark tonight. Sorry about that. Got a bunch of shit going on. Everybody be safe out there. Just as a general reminder, if you are planning on giving out candy, and I hope you do, do me a favor. If you're going to give out candy, don't give out the bite size. Don't do that. Give like the real size candy bars, please. I mean, seriously. And also maybe include some ramen noodles or some non-perishable food snacks, something that's shelf stable, just in case. Don't ask questions, just do it. I'm sure families would appreciate that. We're going to go rate our friend Olive. I think Olive and Monty might be live. Go rate our friend Olive. Tell her we sent you. Happy Halloween, friends. I love you all very, very much. Mods, you guys are fantastic human beings. I appreciate you, every one of you. You guys are the smartest chat on TikTok. We'll see you probably over the weekend somewhere.
Oh no, I got to keep on moving.